What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis. Helping Jason survive every Lions season until now. I'm guessing you're not off Skymint, though, despite the Lions resurrection.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
It's my core foundation, Graham.
Skymint.
Yeah.
Grit. Also, our Monday night show, presented by our friends at Muskox High-Quality Flannels. No better time than right now in the heat of January to order yourself a Muskox durable, comfortable, high-quality flannel and experience the comfort that Jason and I do so often. And many of our listeners, I think, have already discovered. Go to gomuskox.com. That's GOMUSKOX.com. And you can use the promo code CAW15 for $15 off. Jason, how you doing, brother?
What's up, buddy? It's so great to see you.
You're not dead inside?
I'm not dead inside. Somebody's back. Back on the Lions train. It's great to be back.
What
Even
a
though
day.
we didn't go to the playoffs, and they made me watch a whole Rams game. But we'll get into that.
What a day yesterday was. It was is a emotional roller coaster watching sports as I've had in a while. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Not all of it. But it was like one of those days that for 6 hours, you're into it. And everything is gripping and everything is tense.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
Yeah. Man. And there's a lot that I was pissed off about at times, and there were things that I thought were
Hopefully next year we don't have to worry about other teams.
Unfair. Yeah. And there were some it was a big night for the Lions.
It was wild.
Yeah, it was pretty damn cool. So, should we dig into our hot takes?
Sure.
All right, why don't you start?
Listen, yesterday, like you said, it was a whirlwind of emotions, but I got to say, I'm really bummed about not getting into the playoffs because I got to say, Graham, looking at that NFC bracket, honestly, on the AFC side as well, I don't think as a Lions fan, and I'm not just saying this, I wasn't really scared of anyone. I thought we could compete and maybe make a run NFC championship game. So that was kind of the bummer. Then having to watch fucking Baker Mayfield and the Rams and that shit show for like 3.5 hours. But after that, I was just Jordan, Michigan fan Jordan, he was kind of like out of it. Like he's like, I'm out. Like we lost, we're not in the playoffs. I can't get excited about this. I was though. He's like, are you on the edge of your seat? I'm like, nah, not really. But I'm like openly rooting. And you know why? Is because those guys care. And it's been a while since we've seen actual players that give a shit and try their ass off. Because the national media, I mean, they came out and picked the Packers. What are the Lions going to play for? And when you hear stuff like that, you go, why am I watching this? They have no idea what's going on in Detroit. They're just, it's a hot topic and they talk about it. And they, it's just disrespectful. And that's why, I mean, we talked about it before Sunday or whatever, that if they beat Aaron Rodgers, going to Lambeau, handle business, going no matter playoffs or not, I think the whole mentality has changed. If I could ask Dan Campbell a question, I would say, what changed from 1-6? What did you have to do to make those adjustments? But I got to say, Graham, I can't wait for the draft. I can't wait until next year. It seems like everyone's buying into this. It's just exciting.
So this will go into my first take, too. I mean, I'm in the same place you are. Yesterday, it was just one big day of Graham Stout, right? And my takes and thoughts and opinion. It was just because
the draft pick.
I wasn't worried about the draft pick, but I did have that moment after the Seattle game where I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks. And then you get caught up in the Lions game and you're like, that's a big moment. And for a minute I'm thinking, look, they probably weren't going to win a Super Bowl this year. So this is one of the ways they end the season by winning a huge game.
Are we sure though?
That's the problem. Okay. So for a while I'm thinking they end the season by winning a huge game, by slaying a demon that's been killing them forever. Aaron Rodgers, the Packers dating back before Aaron Rodgers, and looking like they're headed somewhere. And for a minute I'm feeling like, this is as promising a moment watching the Detroit Lions as I can remember since the 90s. And then it hits me, though, a couple things. One, when I start seeing like video of Dan Campbell in the locker room, how much better it would be if he's saying, next week, prepare to go to San Francisco. And you start thinking about, and now San Francisco is a tough game, probably lose that game. But they're playing well enough. The NFC is open enough that wouldn't you like to see what would happen?
Yes.
And it's one of those things where, and then you start thinking about, you just never know. Ben Johnson's getting talked about for head coaching jobs. How many of these guys will actually be back? NFL one season to the next, the carryover isn't automatic. You know, they're going to be a sexy pick next year. I'm going to tell you, if you want to make money, the value is going to be on the Lions under next year. No, none of us are going to take it because that's ass. I'm just saying the Lions over-under is going to be like 10, 9.5, and the value is on the under. And that sucks. Next year, they're going to be a hot pick, and the hot pick usually doesn't wind up working out. And next year, the other thing that sucks is there is no better time, and Michigan State fans understand this really well, than the initial rise in terms of joy. Right? You go back to in basketball, the 97, 98, 98, 99, those seasons, you'll never have that much fun again. If you don't remember those, you'll never get to have the joy that people were alive and remembered those years enjoyed.
Don't take it for granted, yeah.
Yeah, and what it's just in Michigan State football is too, when it's first happening, when you think you're on the precipice of something, when every win is exciting, eventually you expect to win. Eventually you won't get as much joy out of going 10-6 or 11-6 as you did this year, going 9-8 during this win streak, because the expectations are higher. And so I think next year this will be a lot of fun in every win because they haven't been to the playoffs. The other problem is people say, well, you got to get to the playoffs experience and then take steps. Well, if you didn't get there this year, is next year the year you get there and lose and take steps? No, you don't want to spend that much. In other words, this is a wasted chance to, even if you didn't get anywhere in the playoffs, have that year where you got there. And next year, you don't want to spend all of next year just to get there. You get there and you want to do something. So there are a lot of things that were going back and forth, and I just the end. It was kind of bittersweet, is what it was.
Well, and they did sprinkle a little of the same old Lions in there with having to root against Kenneth Walker. That wasn't very fun. Not only do you have to watch Baker Mayfield, but on the other side, Kenneth Walker's running all over the Rams, and you're like, all right, he's a good guy. I like Kenneth Walker, but fuck.
Well, so
it was just that was kind of ass.
And then the other thing I would say, and this was originally where my first take was going to go, when the Lions finally do get there, the thing that became very evident yesterday is they are going to have to plow through the NFL and every roadblock and every perception about them, because you see it in the way the games are officiated. You see it in the way the broadcasters talk about them. And you know what? They haven't earned better than that. They really haven't. People can get pissed off. I thought they treated him rather fairly in the post game and on Van Pelt last night. And because, look, it is true, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and there was interesting stuff about him at the end of that game. And I thought the Lions, though, looked like a team that is ready to plow through it, is ready to change the narrative about them and how they're perceived. And I guarantee you people perceived them differently last night nationally than they did going into last night.
And you can't really blame the national people, because the Lions, to be honest, are only around here. You'll get to talk to them. But if they're not doing anything, why would you talk about the Lions?
And if
they were actually relevant last night.
And they haven't won a playoff game in like 30 years. So why would a national person have any real inkling that this is a serious franchise? Right. So they're going to have to plow through it. You see it with the roughing the kicker call, which was bullshit. You see it with Seattle, that game should have been a tie or a Rams win, and the Lions should have been in. And but that is ultimately the things that the Lions are going to have to overcome. What is your second hot take?
Well, you mentioned Ben Johnson, and before I came in here, I saw that Aaron Glenn might be up for that Houston Texans job. Well, here's Sheila Hamp. You got to pay these guys. I know that you had your little press conference in front of the media and everything. I'm sorry, but Ben Johnson's going to be a name in everybody's mind. And if you pay him top coordinator salary, which is above $3 million, is that a big deal? It doesn't count against your cap. It's all the forward money.
Yeah.
If you want to keep these guys together, I mean, Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell were with each other in Miami, so I don't know if there's any loyalty to that. But I mean, if you're Ben Johnson, you want to run your own outfit and you're getting offered these jobs, you can't blame the guy. But if you can pay these guys right now and get this shit out of the way, you got to start paying. You got to keep these core guys together. There's not many chances you get where things start to work. So keep these guys. Pay up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree, because this is where you don't have a salary cap. This is where it's like baseball, where whether you win or lose is your decision on your financial commitment, and the money is irrelevant. And so to me, eventually you're going to lose a really hot coach to a head coaching job, and that's okay. You want to keep them as long as you can, and that means not having them, make them think about a head coaching job. Is that really the right one? I've got something going here, and they're going to reward me handsomely.
You don't want to go to the Texans. I mean, come on.
That's what I mean.
The Broncos are ass. You want to start weird.
You want to start thinking about that, right? Yeah. And you certainly want to make sure they don't leave for another coordinator job, which I don't think they would. I think they got a good thing.
And
going.
I understand, but before we go on a run, and the way that Ben Johnson called the game yesterday, I need to see another year of that at least, and that would be another same old Lions kind of thing, though, wouldn't it? So I just don't want that to happen.
All right, so here's my second hot take, and I've got some MSU basketball stuff coming. We're getting a lot to that as well through our listener hot takes. Okay, if the Lions don't want to take a quarterback in this year's draft, I really get why they might not right now. Because Jared Goff, while he was bad for parts of that game, he made the plays when he had to. And he went into Lambeau and he beat Aaron Rodgers, and he made key throws late in that game, and that was the question about him. Like, that's a tough move on from a team that has a lot rolling to say, because now, if you move on to a different quarterback and your baseline is pretty damn good with Jared Goff, what he did yesterday, and that person's not as good as that, that's not going to help the locker room. That's not going to help the culture. That's not going to help anything. So I get it. It doesn't mean you're 100% sure yet that that's the long-term answer to get you to a Super Bowl. But what I would do if I were the Lions is you have the 6th pick and the 18th pick. I would take that 18th pick this year and trade it for a first-round pick, and you probably get a third back with it, a first-round pick next year and like a third this year from somebody who's looking to move up and be able to package picks or do something. Because what I want is what you have now that you may never happen again is the 2 first-round picks that give you mobility in the first round if you need it. And I want that later. I don't want it anymore now unless you really love one of these quarterbacks and you do what you got to do. It's a harsh business. Yeah. But what I want that next year now. So what I'd like to do is get yourself an extra draft pick this year, a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, whatever it is, and trade that to a team that's looking for a quarterback that can use to help move up where the Bears are, that wants to move up. Trade that 18th pick because chances are that team's going to be shit anyway. They're going to be drafting a rookie quarterback. You're going to get their first-round pick a year from now. Use a desperate team. And I'm not saying that was going to work out perfectly, but I would be creative like that and trying to be in the same spot next year with 2 first-round picks because the Lions' first-round pick isn't going to be that great next year if they're a decent team again. And so use the situation you have to create flexibility down the road so you don't have to make the decision now. The other interesting thing and they wouldn't do this in a division, that would get fascinating is if you're the Chicago Bears, I think you should be considering taking a quarterback and trading Justin Fields.
Is Fields that bad?
No, but here's the problem. Everything is about timing in the NFL and being on the right timing and building a roster. Fields is only 2 years away from having to get paid. And you want to start that clock over. He's not, you don't know about him for sure. And you start it over. You trade him. You draft a rookie. And I understand there's a hit and miss proposition, but we don't know about Fields yet. If Fields was a sure thing, you would just pay Fields and stick with that. I don't think you know that for sure.
But did they put weapons around him in Chicago? I mean, there's still
a lot to do. I'm just saying if it wasn't in the division, if I were the Lions, I would look at Justin Fields.
But on to, back to Goff, though. It's not like I want him gone after the season. No. I want there to be some sort of future quarterback thing. And Brad Holmes has earned enough to go, if you want a quarterback there, I trust Brad Holmes.
Totally.
In Brad Holmes, we trust.
Totally.
Right? So, I mean, Goff, absolutely. Goff is probably a top 10 quarterback. I know his stats say he's probably, in the upper top 5 or something like that. It's tough for me to say because the guy was ass, and you can't deny that the guy's been ass when they were 1-6, right? So,
and he has a history that is the problematic history for Jared Goff is that when he hasn't had a brilliant offensive coordinator that he was in sync with, he struggles. But also, when they go up against big games where really good coaches have time to take away some of the things he's able to do and they're able to do with him, he can't adapt to beat them usually. And that's what scares me. It scares me going into a 2-week prep against a great coach in a Super Bowl sort of thing with him, and it scares me going deep. And that's the other reason that it would have been great to be in the playoffs this year. It would have been another evaluation of him because he passed this test last night, even though he didn't play great at all times. It played in cold weather, went in, they beat the Packers. Anyway, I think the jury's still out. You want to create flexibility going forward. What's your third hot take?
I know that I say this often, and it's kind of a catchphrase, but seriously, man, college refs are ass. They are ruining college basketball. And I know it's the Carmen Electra's hot kind of take, but I put this in there after that Michigan State game, especially at the end of that game, Graham, where the refs put .4 back on they just call fouls out of nowhere. They just call just to stop momentum. Like, let these kids play. I say it over and over again. What can we do to fix this? I know it's a bang thing, but when these guys are looking in the monitor and reviewing calls and still getting it wrong and calling fouls, touch fouls, it's not a fun game to watch anymore. It's not a good product.
We'll get into how that last foul covered the spread for Michigan State and some of the listener hot takes in a little bit.
Now that is gambling related, and I can appreciate that, but it's just like I'm just watching these guys, and it's like, oh man, Michigan State's about to get some momentum going. Foul.
Now, how about full-time refs that work, 3-4 games a week tops and are controlled by the league? I mean, you might work for 2 different conferences.
How many games are these guys doing? 3 or 4 tops? They're doing more than that?
Oh, they're doing like 6 a week. Yeah, they're just Some of these guys are working constantly,
Can they not find new?
Well, the worst part is they make a lot of money doing it, and they still have full-time jobs that they also do like shit. Some are like principals and cops. They must be like the worst cops and principals. There's no way you can do that well and then show up every night miles and some of these guys.
So wait, do you take time off, or how do they do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. They just do the shit poorly is what they do. They don't.
They can't make a good living just doing the ref thing. Huh?
It's more and more you can.
That's insanity. How much money is tied up into these sports?
They're making a couple grand.
The referees get paid shit.
It depends on the league and all that sort of stuff.
I guess they make what, $3,000 a game. I'm not, woe is me, but it's just funny that some of these guys still have to keep another job. Anyway.
So I'll go Michigan State basketball related. And look, I think what's real when I watch this Michigan State team. And I've watched them 2 games in a row now with their full complement of players, the same complement they had at the very beginning of the year. For this season, they have had 7 games now with a full roster. They're 6-1 with that 1-point loss to Gonzaga. A win over a Kentucky team that at the time still had high hopes and life worth living, and it was in a better place. A win over a Villanova team that has been up and down but was still fighting at that point. Competing is what I mean by fighting. Gritty sort of, a dominant win over a Nebraska team that's not awful. A win over a Michigan team in a game that neither team shot the ball well, but that's not a horrible Michigan team. They've got pieces. And what I'm saying is don't pay attention to the advanced metrics or anything right now because they just don't account for the absence of Malik Hall, the absence of Jaden Akins, them coming back into the lineup, this team, how it changes. And not just those 2 guys, it's how this is a really good collective, I think. And I am very curious to see what they are in totality. Because when I look at this backcourt, Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard, who I thought was fantastic against Michigan, and Jaden Akins, you can find me a better point guard than A.J. Hoggard. You can find me a better off guard than Tyson Walker. You can find me a better wing athletically, defensively, and shooter than Jaden Akins. But collectively, the way they move, the way they feed off each other, the way they understand their roles, you're not going to find many better trios than that, period, in college basketball. And so I wish they could replay Alabama, not because I think they'd necessarily win, but I would like to see them play Alabama, which is maybe the best team they've faced all year to this point, with Akins and Hall, to see what that matchup looks like. And defensively, I think it looks different for Brandon Miller, who's an unbelievable player. And I'm curious now to see, obviously, they go on the road this week. And I talked about this 4-game stretch ending with Wisconsin this week and Illinois this week, but also Purdue on Monday, who's, a top 5 team in the rankings that create some issues for them. I want to see how they really stack up. And it's not even just about the chance for them to compete for a Big Ten title, which I think this week's really important if they're going to stay in that mix. But I also think it's a chance for us to learn that they might have the goods to be able to, like I've said before, I think on a given night they can compete with people. they might have the goods to compete on more than a given night with people, like most often with most teams in this season of college basketball. They're really, I mean, you look at Arizona, you look at UConn, you look at Alabama. There are a few teams out there that I think are better than they are. But I don't know how much. And I don't think any of us do yet. We don't have a great sense of this team at full go. I don't think Michigan's that bad a team. Michigan's got a lot of work to do still to make the tournament. But just from a talent perspective, I don't think either team, obviously neither team shot the ball that well. Michigan State is not a perfect team. There's some issues inside, obviously, and Sissoko hangs in there, and they'll be fine with him. But you certainly could be better at center than Mady Sissoko. He's kind of a counter to good centers, but he's not a great center himself.
Don't coach my
but I think the rest of the starting five, and the problem is we saw when the other team has a good center, they really can't play small ball. We saw what happened against Michigan. It was a total disaster again when they put Hauser at center. But I do think, and so it'll be interesting to see how they play that. But I do think as a collective, especially that three-man backcourt, those five guys, when four of them are on the court together, I don't see a lot of teams in college basketball with more experience, sweat equity, whatever I like to call it. I'm very curious to see what their ceiling is. I don't think they're ever going to dominate anybody. They're not that type of team, but I don't know that anybody is going to dominate them. And that can be enough to make a run, and that's what I'm very curious about, and I think we'll learn a lot about on the road this week, especially at Illinois, and then also next Monday against Purdue. Any thoughts?
Oh, well, yeah, just like you said about going on the road after 5 home games, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Purdue game aside, I know that game's at home after the 2 road games, but I want to see the 2 road games after they've been at home for kind of a while.
Yeah.
If they don't look rusty in those, it'll be a promising sign for sure.
Yeah, because these next 2 road games are sort of the games that I think give them a chance over some other teams. I think they've got, like, you just listen to Jaden Akins today, and there's a guy who's won in Madison. And granted, they didn't have Tyler Wall when they won there last year, and they might not again Tuesday night. It sounds like his ankle may or may not. He didn't practice Monday. It's unclear whether he plays. But these guys have won on the road in tough places, and I don't think this intimidates them. That said, they have not been in environments like they'll be the next 2 games. Penn State does not create that environment. Everything else has been pretty much a neutral site. Portland was technically a road game, but half the fans were Michigan State fans. Like, they have not done this yet this year. And so you do have to see how those guys all respond. I think that's where they have an advantage, and I think that's where they might pick up wins. But if I'm right on that, we'll find out a little bit this week. All right, let's dig into our listener hot takes.
All right. Yeah, man. Eric Schultz up first. Number 1, A.J. Hoggard has the most dog in him of any Spartan since Draymond. 2, Baker Mayfield sucks. 3, the Lions would have made some real noise in the playoffs. At any rate, they're set up to be really fun over the next several years, which I've never seen or never before been able to say.
A couple things here. One, I do think Hoggard is getting to the point where not only does he have the dog in him, but he has the credibility in him, which is a place that Draymond had to get with his teammates too. That's because Hoggard is not. He is I think I put it as he's the fire, and he's got some goofiness to him, and he's fun. He's poised, he's calm, he's a lot of things. He's a contradiction, a walking contradiction.
Wears his emotions on his sleeve.
Yeah, Malik Hall is the mature. Like, if you were to have one Michigan State basketball player sit at the adult table at Thanksgiving and get along in conversation, it would be Malik Hall. Like, that's your mature leader, and you can just feel it. It's just different with him. But those 2 guys together, I think, are a nice pairing because they're different. But what Hoggard finally has is credibility, I think, and his teammates sort of understand it. And so, again, Draymond was a special kind in terms of holding court, and I don't know if Hoggard is quite there, but most dog in him since. It's a good question. I have to trying to think of who might be in that category. Also, Baker Mayfield does suck. I mean, that guy's. I
gotta like Baker in Carolina too, and then he shit the bed there, and it's.
Well, and on that long throw, you just see he doesn't have the arm,
right?
And you're like, that guy's done. He's not a starting quarterback.
He's a gamer though. He played through a lot of injuries. he screwed himself in Cleveland by playing through that arm injury that just never healed.
And I think if he wants to be, he's in the NFL for another 7-8 years as a backup.
Oh, God, yeah.
But he's just never going to be – nobody's going to pay him to be a starter.
If Nathan Peterman can find a job, Baker Mayfield will.
But he's going to have to accept that role, and that's, who
I
knows?
think he's all right with it.
Yeah.
Dominic next. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers will sit down to pee and change his tampon later tonight and wonder what went wrong in his bitch-ass life. 2, super excited for Jason about the future of the Lions. He deserves it. Graham, not so much with his historical Chicago Bear insensitivity driving it. And 3, Tony Dombrowski will have sex this year with an actual live person. David Harns is in early negotiations to direct and narrate the impending Netflix documentary. There was an early impasse with talks as he demanded an Applebee's gift card and a lock of Kenneth Walker's hair. Bonus. I've never been at fault for losing a bet. Everyone else, bitch ass, fucks me over. That is true. I usually blame Couch.
Really?
Someone asks me for a pick. Yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah. By the way, if it's wrong, I blame Graham.
I'm getting better at
feels better.
I'm getting better at feeling okay about losing a good bet. Oh wow, that took me a while.
Thanks, Skyman. I hope.
Yeah, Skyman's a definite. There is definitely. I'll tell you one thing that Skyman is tremendous for. When you see a bet going wrong, pop in 10 milligrams.
Fire up a pre-roll.
Yeah, you are good. And by the way, you can just go to skymint.com, find the Skymint location nearest you, and add Skymint in your life, and it will help you when things are going wrong, or you just when the playoffs come on this weekend and the Lions aren't in it, it's also a good time to drop an edible or a pre-roll.
Professor next. This is the best Victory Monday at work since Kenneth Walker beat Michigan last season. MSU, an unexpected Lions W. Oh, and someone is picking up Groovy Donuts? Bonus. Is Dan Campbell's nose okay? Looked awfully red and frostbitten.
I got to say, Dan Campbell definitely could have used some muskox.
It's our core foundation, man.
High quality flannel on his nose, nice cap. Maybe I don't think they make a ski mask, but maybe we can get muskox to make a ski mask.
Yeah, ski mask on the sideline.
Yeah, they do make great hats. I bought my wife one for Christmas. She loves it. She wears it all the time, and very comfortable. Looks good on her, and so that's one of the. If you don't need a flannel, but you need a great, comfortable winter cap, you can go to gomuskox.com, and they've got great flannels there. I would recommend it.
Oh, they have winter caps too?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Very much worth it. And by the way, when you, best way to support our show, and I've said this before and I'll say this again, is by supporting our sponsors like Muskox. So, if you feel like supporting us ever, support them, support, Groovy Donuts, support Skymint.
Support everyone.
And by doing that, you are supporting us. You can go to gomuskox.com. Again, the promo code is CAW15. That's CAW15 for $15 off. To his point, I understand. I do think that it was, people just felt different today. You felt different today after that, right?
Yeah, but there's going to be that lingering kind of like the 2020 Michigan State basketball team. Like, what if? What if we would have made the playoffs? Like, watching this weekend, I'm going to be like, shit, we're going to beat this team. And
there's a really good take coming up that may be our hot take of the day that we'll get into in a little bit that gets into this. So
what a preview.
Yeah.
Ride Dog 458 next. As a 29-year-old, this was the most impressive Lions win of my lifetime. Beat the Packers in a playoff game for them on the road. That's 99% of a playoff win.
Yeah, again, but it wasn't. That's the thing.
But I mentioned, though, it's beating Green Bay. That's why I knew those guys were going to go in there and just want to knock Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs. Watching him go into that tunnel, he's getting mad at a camera guy. And by the way, what the fuck was up with Green Bay players last night? Shoving the athletic trainer. Another guy bumped into the athletic trainer. One dude just randomly going up and walking and picking up the football at the goal line. Have we talked about? Has anyone heard what's going on with that dude?
The guy who bumped into.
Remember the guy at the goal line? He just ran up and touched. He picked the ball up.
I think he was trying to make sure because they were calling timeout or whatever it was that the ball wasn't going to be snapped. But it was.
But he was slowly walking to it.
It was a weird, dumb thing. But it is interesting. His age here tells you 29 years old. So if you're 29. Let's say your cognitive lifetime for sports starts at 9. because that's about when, for me, like, I mean, I was paying attention to Elway and things before that, but the Pistons bad boys, right, are my real, true beginning. A lot of people start really understanding what's going on at that stage. And so that you go back 20 years, you're talking 2003. Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, you were like
Joey Harrington.
Paying attention with Joey Harrington,
You
Charles
forgot about
Rodgers.
You never had to go through that.
Yeah.
Jealous.
But yeah, I mean, that you got to be 10 years older to really have experienced the Lions in their.
I think you're a perfect age. I'm jealous of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hopefully you get a nice run here. Matt Venny next. Number 1, getting the draft pick from the Rams, finishing the season with a winning record, and putting Aaron Rodgers in a body bag is better for the future of the Lions franchise rather than getting smoked in the playoffs. The team has improved, but not quite there yet. 2, I'm not a Jets fan, but it looks like being one is its own circle of hell. And 3, this year's MSU Hoop squad is the most Tom Izzo-ish team since the 2018-19 season.
So I want to get into 2 and 3 here. Here's the thing about the Jets is they have a team that's on their way, right? Nice roster, but don't yet have the quarterback because they've messed up on that pick. And that's the danger of it, right? You miss on the pick.
It's still early yet.
It is, but again, you get a window. Those guys are going to get there, then they get expensive, your window's over, and if you never get the quarterback, doesn't matter. So, like, that's what you don't want to ever be. This is an Izzo-embodied team, and you can tell he likes them. I mean, it's a team that does not have NBA lottery picks on it, which I think to its benefit is going to help the chances next year of having a special team because a number of these guys are going to be back in key roles with a couple guys who might be NBA type talents early on, and that's the type of mix you're looking for. But yeah, you can tell Izzo likes this group.
But on to his number 1, though. He's right, kind of right. I just don't know if they get smoked in the playoffs, and even so, I would be okay with that. I just think ending the Packers season and sending Aaron Rodgers home, possibly if he retires off that game, you send him into retirement, it just changes the franchise and the way the mental thinking, we're not these losers anymore.
It is not a perfect finish, but it's a pretty damn good one because it also changes the offseason. The way if you're the Lions, that was a hell of a pick-me-up for sure. Now, the problem is we talk about the Lions like they're this thing that just keeps moving on. Like in an NFL franchise, half those guys won't be around next year. Like this is it. They're not, it's maybe not half, but you know what I mean? Like it doesn't just keep rolling with the same dudes.
And what we have going on in Detroit, too, it's going to free agents. We won't have to overpay for these fringe kind of old free agents anymore.
Well,
young guys want to be a part of this.
You talk about 1 and 6 and aspects of the team that never got rolling or started to show signs late, like Jameson Williams. There's a guy, and look, they knew that when they drafted him. That's why they got him a little later. There's a guy who gets to come in next year 100% healthy as a weapon, right? And that's almost adding to this piece.
And you can't really get mad at the Rams, right? I mean, just don't depend on the Rams to have to win a game for you in Week 18. Just fix that.
They almost did.
I know. Jeff Dillon next. The Lions being good could have devastating consequences to MSU and Michigan football passion. There hasn't been a case study to this yet, but it's plausible.
So here's where I think I'm going to Graham Stout this. It's my specialty. So I do think that Michigan football's massive fan base was built on the backs of 40 years of Lions ineptitude. Michigan State wasn't great. So when people are choosing teams, Michigan, what you wanted to choose a winner, 70s, 80s, 90s, that was your squad. And you go that long, and that's how it happens. And so there's something to that. Like if something is presented as an opportunity over time, that can affect things. However, it's a generational thing. In 25 years, the Lions have been like the Patriots, or not even the Patriots, but if the Lions have just been a really relevant, good team more often than not for a generation, it may change the importance of college sports in this state relative to pro sports. Who knows? Or pro football. But
I think it'll be the same.
It's going to take forever. It just takes a long time. I went through this in Kalamazoo, where I worked for a while. When I called
no shit.
Yeah. I remember at one point somebody was saying, yeah, we did a survey on what people's, were the primary team they rooted for, secondary team they rooted for, because Western Michigan was in this weird, difficult point. And they still would draw 20, 25,000, 30,000 occasionally for football games. But nobody else in the country was within 90 miles from Michigan State, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Like, that's a hard deal. And so it was like, and part of the problem was, and the survey came out about 25% of everybody. There were enough fans to support what we did. But my point was this. The sports editor before the one that hired me, Jack Moss, was a legend, who went to every Michigan game. And they didn't cover Western Michigan football properly for 40 or 50 years. That sets the way a team is seen in a given town. My whole point was, you can't even do this survey. You got to cover this team like you're supposed to cover the Division I team in your town for a generation, see where it is, then do the survey. The problem is tail wags the dog and all that stuff. You don't have enough time to create that interest, and that's why they don't cover it properly now. But I'm just saying, like, it takes a lot of time for things to change, and I don't know that the Lions getting good would take away any passion for Michigan State or Michigan unless it happened over generations where people were born into, like, hey, pro football is where it's at. Michigan and Michigan State are struggling. It would take that dynamic.
The Uper next. Number 1, college refs are ass. But that foul call with 0.1 seconds left that lets MSU cover the spread by a point, that was seriously suspicious. 2, the NCAA selection committee ran the NFL playoffs. The Lions are in. They're on a hot streak, and their losses are mostly quality losses.
So this might have been the hot take of the day, but the Uper has already won it, so I wanted to go another route. But I like these a lot.
That was suspect.
That 0.1 second?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I like a good conspiracy theory.
Because you're looking at the replay, you're like, I don't know, and if it's 0.1, the game's over, do you really got to play it?
And like you said, these guys are working second jobs. Would it be that hard to get one of these guys to do some shit like that? I don't know.
I'm just saying. But, yeah, it allowed 2 free throws when the line was 4.5. Michigan State's up 4 with 0.1 seconds to go.
End the game.
End the game. I mean, it looks something. Now, the second one, though, is also interesting because the Uper's 100% right. And I'm glad pro football is different than college football in this sense that we truly have, you win your way in. It's a more balanced schedule. You play your division foes twice. Everybody plays the same number of home games, not like 8 and 4 like Michigan in college.
7-win teams get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but it is true that, I mean, that's what makes this hard, I think, though, right? Is that if the Lions are definitely one of the best 14 teams in football right now, they're definitely better than the Dolphins the way they're playing. They're better than the Seahawks the way they're playing. I don't know how far you'd crawl up the ladder, but you're definitely better than 2 of the playoff teams, and probably better than a couple more the way you're playing right now. So I mean, it's that's what stings. If you were to have a selection committee, they're in.
I mean, who's playing better football right now?
Well, that's fair, but still, I mean, even when you do a selection committee, you don't say just because a team's really hot in their final 4 games, you don't say that team's the 1 seed if their overall body of work doesn't do it. But yeah, I would say right now 49ers. Obviously, the Eagles had some injuries, so I'm not going to say they're less. But 49ers, Eagles would be the 2 teams I would take over the Lions in the NFC right now. And the AFC, you'd take, the Chargers, maybe we'll see they had some injuries, but you'd take Buffalo, Kansas City.
There's going to be some
Cincinnati.
bad football this weekend. Just guessing right now. Take the under.
Great gambling opportunities, though.
Yeah.
Some teaser opportunities, some money line opportunities with Buffalo and the
Jets.
Who's the other fucking team? No, Jesus.
Jacksonville.
Fuck you. No, it's
Carolina Panthers.
No, 49ers Seattle.
Oh,
thank you.
I was going to say that. Daniel Neely next. Number 1, Couch stops making terrible takes in 2023 as his New Year resolution. Broke that already. 2, Couch's book he mentioned he is working on is actually a reflection of all of his terrible takes, titled Bad Sports Takes for Dummies. And 3, love your show and appreciate the both of you.
Appreciate you, Daniel.
Appreciate you more, Daniel.
That would be a
Have you thought about doing something like that, like revisiting your past takes and maybe having a committee where we could vote on them or something?
That's the thing. I need to do some crowd surfing a little bit, because every time I've tried to do this, it's something I need to start doing now for the off season, and I'll tell you why. Here's how it usually goes. I put it on my column budget for my editors. I'm like, hey, this week I'll do this worst takes I've ever done column. It's easy to find bad predictions, but worst takes are different because you forget about some of them. Some of them you really relive, and it's easy. But then when you actually need it, you're like, shit, I need a Sunday column. It's Thursday. It's hard to find them when you're busy and doing other things. I need to start doing them. So like Here's what I would ask the listeners, and maybe I'll put this out there. I don't need him tweeted at me live, but like if you could DM me or DM the show, any really awful takes that I've made over time on this show or in writing, I would appreciate that. It would be
It's going to take people a while to get all of these takes in.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
If you have one you remember, you think, God, what a fucking asinine take.
Dominic's probably got top 5. John with this one. Number 1, the Breslin atmosphere on Saturday was excellent. Hats off to the Izzone. 2, a 40-something-year-old columnist calling the 40-something-year-old Izzone alumni old was beautiful.
You're welcome.
That's true. 3, this past Saturday, I learned that Harbaugh has a righteous image. Are there any Couch in the Rube listeners or MSU media members that have a righteous images? Bonus.
Yeah.
The righteousness of Russell Wilson and Harbaugh together would not fit the entire state of Colorado. Sorry, I was thinking of media members with a righteous image.
Yeah.
Threw me off.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any righteous media members. So Brendan Quinn, is he righteous? He's definitely not righteous. I know his stories. Too many bar tabs I know about. In his earlier days, of course, naturally.
But Harbaugh, he's righteous.
Apparently so. It is true. I was not trying to not poke fun at myself, but it was interesting looking at the alumni Izzone, and every year it's clear that it's getting older and older.
Down, man. Those old Izzone fat people, man, brutal.
Oh, and some of them were self-deprecating themselves writing back because they were like, "Yeah, we were trying to jump, but it was more like leg lifts or not leg lifts, calf raises or whatever." Yeah. Some good shit.
Getting old, am I right?
Yeah.
JD next. Number 1, I admittedly undervalued Malik Hall's importance to the team. I never understood why people were so high on him. I've come around. 2, I'm ready to firmly say it. I'm out on Maddie, and Izzo really screwed the ceiling of this team by not getting a center in the portal. He had a great start to the year, but sadly, he's the player we all thought he was. And 3, Aaron Rodgers isn't retiring or getting traded. He just didn't want to give J-Mo his jersey because he's a certified asshole.
These are our Hopcat hot takes of the day. Hopcat, of course, best damn beer bar, world-famous cosmic fries, mouth-watering award-winning burgers, and Michigan's finest local craft beer selection. No matter where you are, East Lansing, Indianapolis, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Hopcat's partnerships with local breweries creates a local pub vibe in terms of the beer options. Lots of TVs to watch the games. Great place to watch the NFL games this weekend at your Hopcat, be it here in East Lansing or anywhere. And JD will get the $20 gift card from Hopcat for having our Hopcat hot takes of the day. I want to get into this Mahdi discussion. Well, the Malik Hall thing I think is evidenced. I think it is. People do, like, if you look at the numbers when they have Malik Hall and Jaden Akins this year in terms of their coverages and preventing outside shots, opponents in those 7 games, and they played most of their best opponents in the 7 games they've had those two, are shooting 24% from 3. And the other games, they're not bad. They're 33%, but it's just, I mean, that's not, in 8 games, 33%, in 7 games, 24% for opponents. Their defensive coverages are better. And Hall was the one who blew the coverage, by the way, that allowed the Hunter Dickinson 3. And Malik Hall said that in the locker room afterward. But he is incredibly important. I want to get into the Mady Sissoko piece here, though. Like, to me, Mady Sissoko in those first 2 games was certainly the best Mady Sissoko we've seen. But I now, and there's no question to me that Izzo, if there was, like, you can have better centers than Mady Sissoko, and that would make this team ceiling higher, that you could do better. And the kid from Iowa State would be one if they'd gotten him, would have been the transfer from, was it St. Bonaventure or somewhere out east? And wasn't St. whatever the fuck it was.
Cockburn.
But I still think he is a serviceable counter to anybody they're going to face in college basketball, because now we have seen him play 3 All-American style centers, none of which have beaten the Spartans. Now, they've had good games at times, but he's counted him. He had good games in those first 2. Dickinson didn't get on a roll against MSU. I thought Jackson Kohler had some good moments too, where he kind of adjusted and figured things out in the second half, playing a guy like that. Like, That's not the reason they're going to lose. He's not going to be the reason they win, and that's too bad. And it's a fair criticism that Izzo could have done more. Now you can argue you do more. You look like somebody who just replaces your players. What that does to team chemistry if you lose Sissoko and other things he's trying to create, whether that messes with the Xavier Booker signing, certainly because that wasn't in place yet. And you don't want to mess with that. Now, if it had been a one-year guy, that wouldn't have mattered. But there are other dynamics, and I think some of that with the center position was Izzo betting on himself, betting on Matty, and wanting to say F you to the portal. And that part of it you can absolutely fairly criticize. And if, at the end of the day, the only thing that prevents this team from really being able to make a run or compete for a Big Ten title is the center position, then that's absolutely fair criticism. I want to see this group together longer, though, because I don't think there are a whole lot of limitations on who they can compete with.
What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? Retire, like right now, your answer. Retiring or coming back?
He's coming back. His contract, I mean, he's just...
I don't think he wants to come back. I think he's sick of getting screwed by the Packers. He did mention that kind of last night. I think he's weird enough to bounce.
He shouldn't have signed the deal he did. He's coming
got
back.
A shit ton of money.
I'd bet a lot that he's coming back. Not like a man-bra bet, but I would bet a lot.
Some dude next. Number 1. Sorry, boys, but this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. The NFC playoff is fucking wide open. Detroit could have easily been this year's worst to first story. There are good teams, but anyone you'd really be afraid of? No. 2, the Lions are finally villainous. People from Chicago, Wisconsin, and Minnesota don't even bother to dislike us anymore since there's no reason to hate us. Lions games were like visiting your buddy's dog. They play around for a while, get some joy out of it, and then go home. Fuck that shit. 3, Graham's article about the Hoops rivalry was spot on, but we need to change that. I see MSU ripping off 5 more in a row. The Michigan program is not in great shape. Bonus. My son and I are heading to Madison for the game. What are the hot spots to hit?
So, there are a number of good places. If you're going to be, I will DM you. There's, what is it? The Great Dane is around there. There's there used to be this Irish pub that, give me some Hoff. I want to give him a couple spots here real quick.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
He's got a stupid looking face.
Don't realize what you do to me when you hold me in your arms so tight.
All right, so there's a place called the Iron Social. There are a couple places that have closed, and I haven't been there. The Old Fashioned is one of my favorite places. Really good place, right down on the Capitol Square. I would recommend the Old Fashioned. There's a great place called the Brokaw, the Irish place that closed a couple years ago.
Tom Brokaw?
No. It was spelled differently, but it's spelled in Gaelic. But it was one of my favorite places. But I would say that the Old Fashioned is a really cool spot downtown. There's a place, if you're looking for something right next to the arena that's close to get to and go to the game, there's a place called the Nitty Gritty where I famously had a vegetable plate in front of my wife when we were still dating, and the other sports writers still make fun of me for it because I was looking at the menu like, hey, I'm going to order this, 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 and this, and she gave me this look because it was obviously disgusting in calories, and so I just ordered the veggie plate, and I think I was the first person ever to order the veggie plate at the Nitty Gritty.
Wait, you got intimidated by the waitress?
No, by my wife, who was then my girlfriend. We'd only been dating for this is winter of...
You're going to get all of that?
Winter of 2000, God, maybe it was 13. We might have just been, maybe 14. And maybe we've been
At least you let her know what was going to happen. You were going to hammer 9 plates of food.
I was actually in decent shape back then, too. And I think I was still trying to, impress by, I'll make a good decision. Plus, I don't want to have, gastro problems tonight. I got my wife in town or, whatever. My
blow her eyebrows off.
Yeah, those sort
Not
of.
a good look.
No. Anyway, we'll... But
we'll fix that in post.
I will try and DM you some other stuff. But the Old Fashioned would be a great spot, and the Nitty Gritty right next to the arena is a good place that's quick to get to the arena. Might be pretty crowded though before and after.
Rich Searing next. Number 1, that's the best defense I've seen Michigan play in a while. Can't believe we blew a 14-point lead. 2, Dickinson was surprisingly civil from what I could see. Maybe someone made sure he finally shut his pie hole. And 3, when we play again in Ann Arbor, we better shoot a ton better or we'll get beat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting watching Michigan because with Michigan State, you see where some of the veteran guard play makes a difference. But Michigan's got dudes, and I think both teams will be. Both teams seemed on edge. Like there were some. I've never seen that many air balls before. I don't
A little
think
tight
from good teams. Yeah, I mean,
these guys warm up.
Yeah,
that was like me when I played at Gus Macker. My first shot would just rifle over the backboard. I was so excited.
Yeah, these guys are like
nervous.
Guys who have been like 40% shooters from 3 for their whole life, just missing everything. And it was a weird game in that sense. Yeah, the Dickinson thing was interesting because like he scores that first bucket and he's like waving his arms, and I'm thinking, what is he doing? Like
he's got a stupid looking face.
But from that point forward, it was
what's he doing? I don't know, being himself.
Yeah, but
I mean that's his whole shtick. I mean, whatever.
You got to back it up. Make sure you get. I don't know. I would get into it a little more. I would make
When's
sure I
his
had
next podcast. He'll say something great, I'm sure.
I'd make sure I had an advantage a little more in my matchup before I start waving my arms.
Wesley Collins next. Number 1, college basketball rivalry games are like NBA playoffs. You have to win at home, but you separate when you win on the road. 2, appreciate the article after the game Saturday. The couch trifecta of road games, sweat equity, and 6 fouls all in the same article. Imagine the bad beat, though, when you almost got there, but I missed the 4th leg of my parlay when you got to the brink of the matchup proof.
Yeah, there's not a matchup proof team. I can't go there. I can't complete the trifecta or whatever.
Don't coach my team.
You're totally right on that, though. I mean, if that's one of the things that makes this rivalry different than basketball. Number 1, it's not different than football. It's not the event that football is. You don't have a year to stew on it. And the other thing is you have to play often like a month later at the other team's venue. I mean, what do you really say even if you win big? It's like, you got to go prove it again on the road. And we all know home road and how much it means. And I think that like those are the games that ultimately will separate Michigan State, not just against Michigan, but if they're going to have a chance to compete in the Big Ten, you win on the road.
Eric T. Eichinger next. Number 1, MSU beating the spread after the refs put 0.1 seconds back on the clock for free throws was too perfect, even for a non-betting fan. 2, Jamal Williams eclipsing Barry Sanders' touchdown record needs way more press. And 3, with the mild shooting percentage increase, MSU handles the Yellow Bellies easily in Ann Arbor.
What do you think of Jamal Williams' post-game? Did you see the interview he did when he was crying about his great-grandfather?
I didn't have the sound on. I just saw him crying about something. But
so it was tremendous.
He's an emotional dude.
It was wrong. I should have had you play this because he's crying about his great-grandfather. And then in like a moment, he flips to basically saying, we're the MFing Lions. We're coming for you. Here we go.
We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us. I don't even watch TV, but I heard everybody already pick the Packers over us. Stop playing with us. That's all I got to say, man. Don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mud.
That's one of the best post games ever. I mean, he's like crying about his great-grandfather and about how much it meant, and it was all genuine, but he flipped to that. And, like, I don't know.
There's this.
First swag, Kazakage, leader of the hidden village of the demon.
He's a character, man. He's hard not to like.
And Rodriguez saying Barry Sanders University. I mean, it's just how can you not like this team?
But what's his contract situation? Is he back for
Williams?
Sure? Yeah.
Depends on how much money he wants. He said he wants to come back, but I mean, no offense, that offensive line is unbelievable, and I think you can put guys for lesser money back there.
Totally.
Sorry, Jamal.
But
I would definitely want him back, but you don't want to overpay.
That's what I mean. That's why it's a little sad they didn't move on, because this might be the last iteration of this team in certain ways. I mean, I think
you're going to get a discount from Jamal Williams because he did say that he does want to stick around Detroit, but I mean, are you really going to pay him what, $5.5 million a year?
No, I mean, and even at receiver, with Amon St. Brown, you got what, 2 years left to him? You're not paying that guy. He's a good player. You're not going to overpay for a receiver. You don't overpay in the NFL. You get these guys while they're young, you move on. Don't fall in love with any of these guys.
You don't sign a Kenny Galladay to an $82 million contract.
No, you don't do it. So don't fall in love with these guys. That's why you got to have the quarterback. You see what Joe Burrow said yesterday? Somebody asked about, will the Bengals do it in their window? And they asked what the window was. He said, the window is my whole career. And he's right, because he's a great quarterback. Like, that's what you got to get. If you don't,
Macaulay Culkin's my dad.
Yeah. But, like, that's ultimately what determines it. And I don't know that Jared Goff's that. Again, I'm not saying you get rid of Jared Goff. I'm just saying if you can give yourself flexibility to move later by moving a draft pick or something, I would be willing. And again, that's why if I'm the Bears, I'm looking to – you want to time the rebuild when your quarterback's got to get paid and all that stuff. I'm looking to trade Justin Fields and draft a quarterback.
Larry W. with just one. Well, down go the Packers. I've been a recovering Lions fan for years and have even cheered for the Pack, but there's a part of me that's laughing.
You're like my wife's stepdad. He likes all the teams in the Central Division or North Division.
Lord.
It's the worst. But he in his defense, he's from Iowa, which means he's nice. But he's also
I was about to say, what is that?
But he's when you're from Iowa, you don't have a team. So you're from Iowa, you grow up, you're like somewhat close to Minnesota.
No.
You're somewhat close to the Green Bay.
No.
You're somewhat close to Chicago. You're same distance.
That's a great spin, but no.
And now he lives in Michigan, so he's a Lions. Yeah, but he's all yeah.
It sounds like you've had to tell yourself that in your head before you said something.
We've watched a lot of football together.
I just root for all the teams.
I have to I got to grin and bear it. So he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. So that's yeah.
Like Shep. DMB next. Number 1, parking spots have gotten smaller. 2, Izzo having open scholarships is still insane to me. 3, Jim Harbaugh will coach at Michigan longer than Juwan Howard. And bonus, NFL refs are ass.
What are the odds Jim Harbaugh is not the coach at Michigan in about a week or two?
I think it's 50-50. I'm just waiting for someone to offer Harbaugh.
Seems like too much smoke. And it seems like there's legitimate interest, and it seems like he's legitimately interested. Maybe he's using it as a money play. It doesn't seem like that's who he is, though.
Yeah, but they cut his salary, though. Maybe he's out for vengeance and wants money on top of money. Back-to-back playoffs?
Yeah, he deserves a raise. Huh? The Izzo Open Scholarship things, that's just going to be the way it is for most programs. And I don't know how you get around that in a world where players can transfer immediately and play. Because it used to be, you could have a kid who wasn't playing on your bench, but they would be willing to wait their turn because leaving meant sitting out and waiting longer. Now it's like, well, fuck this, I'll go somewhere else. Unless 18-year-olds are going to become more mature and patient, I don't know that you can ever have 13 scholarships again.
Sports Guy 1919. Number 1, sucks the Lions are out, but Super Wildcard Weekend is awesome. Football nonstop. 2, I'm 27, married, and went out downtown Grand Rapids last weekend. I have to say, fuck that. I'd rather stay in with friends and drink and play board games.
Well, Sports Guy 1919, this is why you are 27 and married, because that is your personality, and good for you for finding it. Because, that's when you are in that mode, when that's what you like. You don't want to be like the single dude who'd be like, fuck, I'd rather just stay home and play board games.
That was me. I was the one wheel at the table with all my friends that were married, and old Jason trying to get laid on New Year's Eve. It was sad. But yeah, New Year's Eve is the most overrated holiday. The only time we had fun on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Oh, last weekend. Was that New Year's? It might have been not last weekend.
Was that New Year's Eve he's talking about?
Oh, it might have been. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
But I'm saying the best New Year's Eve, we tried everything. Because before we were 21, it was like, oh, man, New Year's is going to be so great. I'm going to get my ID, all that shit. It was complete ass. The only one that was good, we did it 10 years in. We went and just gambled someone's house. We partied, had a roulette wheel, blackjack, all that shit. It was awesome. Like, why didn't we do this every year?
So, yeah, and I used to I did like 5 or 6 straight years of Chicago with buddies, and we'd go to a place where, you paid like a $100 cover for the whole night, and you got a certain amount of free drinks, So it basically paid for your drinks. It was actually wound up.
What kind of drinks were those?
Not bad.
Watered down sex on the beaches.
Whatever. You're 28. You're looking to hook. Whatever. It is what it is. And some of them were great. We had one where we wound up at a piano bar, and all I knew how to play was Heart and Soul. So I was trying to pick up a girl playing Heart and Soul, and she was pretty turned off. It was not great. Not great for me. I had one where my buddy, who's now a columnist at the Saturday Tradition, covering the Big Ten, Alex Hickey, came to the bar to meet my friend Scott and I at this Irish pub. Convinced us to go to a house party. To leave the bar. We were like, all right, it seems like he's met some people. Let's go to this house party. I have never been less wanted. We walked in, and it was clear that nobody wanted him there. Not only did they not know who he was, but he had been there before and caused hell. Like he was so drunk, like it was like, oh fuck,
I know that look.
Yeah, that's not great. So yeah, I've been
whole room looking at you.
Yeah. So story worth telling, by the way, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. Amazing date place, amazing place for Sunday brunch. Some of the stuff you should follow them on Facebook because some of the new desserts and meals and burgers and everything they put there, it just makes you want to eat at Midtown Brewing Company. Outstanding beer selection, including my favorite, the American Stout. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check out everything they've got going on there. I want to mention the other thing about, like, this is one of the great football weekends, and I love that Michigan State plays on Friday night and Monday and doesn't mess with it. Now, the Monday night game, whatever, but even Michigan State then plays in the mid-afternoon on Monday. They don't mess with the playoffs at all. The rest of the time, Jason, Michigan State's schedule during the football playoffs is ass. I'm not happy about it, and I haven't figured out how I'm going to do this. Week after week after week, the week of the divisional round, they play at Indiana. It's one thing if it's home. It's on the road in Bloomington Sunday afternoon. So what am I going to do? I'm going to stay in Bloomington, Indiana all night, and I'm going to miss the football if I drive back. The next week, at Purdue, the day of the NFC and AFC championships. Like, what the fuck? So, I don't know. I guess I'll and then
Stay another night, right?
Super Bowl Sunday at Ohio State, Sunday afternoon. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, let's Big Ten just I guess it's only beat writers, and I don't like to complain about my job because I love my job, and most people would kill
but
for
you
it.
guys complain.
But this is one incident. Like three of my favorite football Sundays of the year are kind of being screwed. And
but on the Sunday game, couldn't you just stay at a hotel and then watch the games and then leave in the morning?
Sure, if I want to sit by myself in a hotel room, like the point
how
is,
bad do you want to watch them?
But that's the point.
I would do it. I love hotels.
Yeah, maybe
best.
I'll stay an extra night. It's going to cost the LSJ. Get ready for it, guys.
You can just get up and not have to clean up anything. Rules. Kyle next. Number 1, spin zone. This was probably the best case scenario for the Lions. 2, free agent cup has been FA Cup has been fantastic.
The free agent cup. That's what we'll call the FA Cup from now on.
Wrexham and Coventry was all time. 3, college basketball refs are the most ass of all the refs.
So spin zone, this is probably the best case scenario for the Lions. It's not a hard spin zone. Like, we can say the playoffs were better, but you can easily spin this. That, like, you end the season on a win. You knock Aaron Rodgers out. This lingers for a year. This is like,
but I understand if you're still pissed.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
the FA Cup has somewhat been fantastic. The problem with the FA Cup, Jason, is it's like this. It's one of the second. It coincides. It's a tournament in English soccer that coincides along with the actual league play. So, but it's all the clubs in England. So you can be a low division club playing a Premier League team, and some of that is fun. But it's also like low level bowl games. A lot of opt-outs, hard to gamble on. You don't really know who gives a shit all the time. You like today, I got a little money on on Arsenal against Oxford. It's 0-0 at halftime for some freaking reason. So I panic and hedge, and then Arsenal takes care of business with 3 goals in the second half, and I didn't win anything. Like, the FA Cup there can be fantastic matches within it and fantastic things, but I would not gamble on it. Don't be dumb like me.
Or watch it. Sunshine Spartan. Number 1, Lions win the North and have a home playoff game next season. 2, Buffalo wins the Super Bowl by 3 points over San Fran. And 3, Jim Harbaugh will be the Indianapolis coach by the end of the month.
That's where I would go. High draft pick, owner who loves you, place that loves you. You're gonna have lots of time. You're not married to a quarterback. Like, unless you really believe Russell Wilson isn't done, you don't want to go to Denver. And to me, Indianapolis
or
for
Houston
Harbaugh makes sense. But yeah.
I mean, you don't, because that's going to take a couple years.
Well, and they don't.
That's why I couldn't believe they fired Lovie Smith. Like, why wouldn't you just keep him around for at least another season or 2?
And eventually, you got to give. It also looks like a really unstable situation when you fire 2 coaches back to back. When you got shit for talent, it just looks like, what are you doing?
I love Lovie Smith. What a legend.
That guy.
He has just multiple Bobby Bonilla contracts. He's just getting paid and paid.
Yeah, and he did
by all these teams.
And he has. I mean, it's been a while since he. I mean, I'm not saying he did a bad job with the Texans. They were actually more competitive than I thought they'd be at times. But like, Illinois was a shit show. I mean, that was
the Texans was a shit show. But it's not his.
That said, you
his
could argue,
fault. But then he went for 2. That was the best.
You could also argue part of his Illinois rosters allowed some things to happen good for Illinois quickly under Brett Bielema.
Just cash and checks. Preston Zantello next. Number 1, The hook and ladder play made me cry happy tears. 2, Dan Campbell deserves Coach of the Year, no questions asked. And 3, the Lions are winning the NFC North next year. I thought that ball shot out of St. Brown's ass. Like when we saw it live, I'm like, what happened? And then you saw it, and I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening?
I got a
beautiful
text from Bill Cubitt, who I covered at Western Michigan. I lived in Kalamazoo.
Name dropper.
Yeah. Anyway, he was like, I think they got that from us. Like they ran that play at Western Michigan, that screen,
they're the first ones to ever run the hook and ladder.
Well, they just ran, like everybody who gets frustrated with offensive coordinators, there are things you would have gotten frustrated about with that program. Like they were losing to Brian Kelly in Central Michigan every year for a while, and that was their rival, right? That would be a bad deal if you were a fan. But interesting offense was not the problem. Like they knew how to feature receivers. They put up big numbers. It was a fun offense. And I mean, it just you watch what the Lions did, and it's like that's all that I think I tweeted something like that's all that every fan base wants from every offensive coordinator on every play.
And getting it first down to end the game. That's something as a Lions fan you rarely see.
And I give them credit for declining that penalty to force it second down, looking at the clock. Like that was actually for a lot of shitty time management and stuff to have the foresight to go, no. We'd rather make them use a timeout here and get the first down a play later. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, look, the Lions.
Isn't that what you should do, though?
Yeah, but coaches often don't do what you should do. These are glorified gym
baffling.
teachers. Yeah, it's not that anything wrong with gym teachers. I'm just saying, like, they're not as bright as you sometimes think.
No offense. Andrew Cotier, number 1, the Lions make a Super Bowl before Dan Campbell leaves Detroit. 2, Jamal Williams is a crucial piece psychologically for this team. They need to extend him. 3, that's the most into a Lions game I remember being since 1995. Bonus, Hoggard is that dude. Double bonus. Ben Johnson is currently getting fitted for a larger jockeys after that hook and ladder call.
So
he has big balls.
Yeah, I picked that one up. Picking up what you're putting down there. Hoggard can be that dude. What he can never be is him. I hate that phrase.
Oh, my fucking God.
He is him. Oh, my God. I will fucking throat punch the next person who fucking says he is him. I hate that. I cannot.
I just figure it's not for me or whatever. It's a young person thing.
No, not even a young person thing. You want to not get hired by anybody I've ever heard of? I'll fucking blacklist you. I do not want he is him. Nobody is him. Freaking A. I hate that saying.
Delete your Twitter.
It is the worst. It is the worst Gen Z saying. It is like putting a red pin and announcing you're somewhere on steroids. Like
it's like quote tweeting and saying bumpity bump.
It's so much worse. So much worse. Nobody is him. No, he is him. Oh my! If I hear Keon Coleman is him one more time, I'm going to root against Keon Coleman the rest of my life.
Guys, I don't want you to tweet at Graham saying he is him. That would not be nice.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm looking at Jamal Williams' contract this year.
It's got to be cheap, right?
He was at like $4.3 million, and is a free agent, unrestricted free agent. So the thing you got to decide. I mean, he's got to also decide, and I think running backs are getting smarter with this. They're starting to realize when they have really good situations, you don't
like that offensive line.
Yeah, in a place that values you, in a place you saw him in his post-game comments when he got the game ball in the locker room were really like, I love being here. I love this group. And if you value that and you can get a competitive amount, then in the line, and nobody's going to overpay for a running back anyway, so that should help. There's people have realized you don't do that.
Unless it's like a Derrick Henry.
But even he wasn't over. Even he understood, I want to be here for a long time, so I'm not going to charge him an arm and a leg. I'm not going to fight over this. We all saw it with Le'Veon Bell. It's not going to work for a running back because they'll just replace you. And so but you hope they.
I mean, Jamal Williams has to think, like, if he gets paid elsewhere, what does their offensive line look like? And are you going to put up the stats?
And who's really going to pay you? The point is, nobody pays anymore. I mean, Jerry Jones is the last guy, I think, to pay a running back.
Mojo Jojo next. Number 1, grit. 2, Hunter Dickinson will have a long pro career in the ABA League. Am I right? 3, Graham needs to do a story on the Waffle Kid from the Izzone of the past era. Where is he now? How did the Izzone prepare him for adulthood? Was he the home wrecker Mr. Buttersworth feared?
That's good. It would be fun to pick some people out like that and do some pieces. I at one point, I don't know. I could look him up because we interacted and
Where'd he go? Where's the waffle kid?
I don't. Well, he graduated, I think.
Well, that doesn't mean you leave the earth. I
No,
mean, you're
he's
still.
right. He's still on Earth.
Well,
Hopefully.
he graduated. Well, fucking A.
That's the way it sometimes
Does he have
works.
social media at all? Kurt was.
Well, that's what's sort of interesting about Kenneth Walker and fans' love for him is people still like following former players of the teams they love in the NBA and the pros and the NFL.
Sure.
But with him, there is such a deep appreciation. There are a lot of people who root for him and enjoy watching him more than most guys who move on. And that is a lot of times guys move on, they just move on, and you sort of forget about them. Because let me tell you this: when you write stories, you can tell it. If you write stories about guys, every once in a while there's a beloved person, a Cassius Winston or somebody. People want to know what's going on. But when you write stories about guys who are leaving, who are going into the draft, or are in the NBA, so many fewer people read those than when you write about guys who are coming into college. Or
Really? See, I love those things. Like Sports Illustrated used to do Where Are They Now?
Yeah,
They might
great.
still do it, but I love seeing those obscure guys from back in the day.
Well, no, that's a little different. So guys that people don't know where they are, the catching up with that we do really well for us. So like that's the idea behind that, like the Jeff Smoker, which I still hope to do here. And some of the ones I've done, like with the 2005 MSU women's basketball team, that did insanely well. The story on Bagwell, the former East Lansing star, and Erasm Lorbeck, things like that. People love.
See, how about a
that
Smoker
stuff.
book? You should get together with Jeff and write a book. I'd read that. Huh? Kurt Wisniewski next. Number 1, the Lions will win the NFC North in 2023 with an 11-6 record. That's specific right there. 2, Harbaugh and Russell Wilson are a match made in Denver weirdo quarterback coach heaven. Let's ride. Imagine the Subway cringy commercials. 3, A.J. Hoggard has developed to a leader and will lead this team to a Final Four.
I do think Hoggard, I mean, the best thing about Hoggard for Michigan State is that he has developed into the player he's become really over the last, I mean, we saw signs of it last year. We saw some of it this year, but the 47 assists and 10 turnovers over the last 7 games is pretty much when he started to try to bring them back against Northwestern is a hell of a run. And what you're seeing from him now, and there's sort of the swagger and poise and ability for have a guy arrive at that point in his junior year in January and not be a guy who's really on NBA draft boards to the point that he's probably going to leave early. Like you think about Jeremy Fears Jr. coming in next year, and what you want in an ideal world for that guy is to play next to a guy like A.J. Hoggard, not to be when he doesn't have the sweat equity, when he's just a supreme talent but hasn't been in all those situations, hasn't been on the road in the Big Ten. You want that mix. I mean, you start to look, and this is something I'm going to have to start writing about. We'll see how they do here. But, I've talked about 2-year groups before. But the key guys, and I talked to Malik Hall the other day. I didn't ask him about coming back, but I would ask him if he was doing all right because he looked miserable before the Michigan game. He was in a better place in the locker room. But he just talked about this wasn't how I wanted my senior year to go. This wasn't how, he's had to kind of get over the idea that he can't practice as much as he wants to and be a part of everything because his foot's still healing to a degree. That may help them get him back next year. It wasn't like he was a surefire NBA guy, but he might just be done with college at some point. But if they get back, I mean, I think Tyson Walker probably moves on. I think Joey Hauser probably moves on. But if they get back Hoggard, Akins, Hall, and Sissoko with the class they have coming in, and you talk about stable of veterans, really good players with young, really high talents. I mean, that's what the 2016 class didn't have when they arrived. They didn't have those guys. They were like starting, and all 4 of them starting and playing a ton together, and that's why they were a bubble team. You want that group to show up with a veteran group that's still there. You wanted that group to show up with the group that left just before them, with Valentine, Forbes, and those guys. And you might just about have that next year. And that, to me, is please promise you'll also read this column when I write it. But that, to me, is what that's the perfect college basketball team you can create. Now, is it enough talent? Will there be a super team out there that's better? You never know in a given year. But that's ultimately what you're trying to build, an old team also with some high-end NBA talent or really high-end prospects.
John Krager next. Number 1, As much as we all want to blame the bad officiating in the Rams Sea Chickens game, the Lions just had to overcome 2 blown leads against Minnesota and Miami, and then we aren't having this conversation. 2, I am impressed with A.J. Hoggard's poise that needs to carry over on the road over the next week while to really make me a believer. 3, if there wasn't reports about Sean McVay not coming back next year, I'd venture to guess that Aaron Rodgers would be going to the Rams next year, and then they win the Super Bowl to really spite us.
I don't think – I think Rodgers – his contract is what it is. He's staying in Green Bay if he plays anywhere, and I think he will play everywhere. The thing about the early season fuck-ups for the Lions, and you can say, well, yeah, they shouldn't have lost to this, they shouldn't have lost to that. They've actually played the Eagles tough early on, all that stuff. But they were a 1-16. They weren't a very good team for a while. So I think the bigger miss for me is they go down to Carolina and lay an egg late when they were already playing really well. The early games I can forgive because that wasn't a playoff team. That wasn't who they became. It's like,
can you forgive it, though? Because the way they finished the season, I mean, why did you start 1-6? That's the question.
Yeah, well,
that's what's really frustrating about the whole deal, too.
You know why they started 1-6? Because they don't have an elite quarterback.
Because NFL refs are ass, that's why.
That, too.
Greeny Green 777 next. Number 1, called it 5 weeks ago, saying the Lions would win 4 of 5 and miss the playoffs. I just didn't think it'd likely have been caused by a horrible roughing the kicker call that helped Seattle win. Refs are ass. 2, Lions win the division next season. And 3, State beats Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Credit to Greeny Green. He did call this. He basically, on one of his hot takes, was Lions win 4 or 5 and miss the playoffs. I was looking at all the math and thought they would still get in. And what I was all worried about the Eagles and Cowboys having to play their starters in the end, and it didn't matter that Dallas sort of laid an egg in the final game, and they were just one tiebreaker away from it happening. What would have been really cool, though, Jason, is it wasn't until the game all of a sudden looked like it was going to go to overtime. I was like, hey, wait, tie will do. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah,
that would have been kind of fun if that just
not with those two defenses, no.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is, with the 10-minute overtime, though, you sometimes wind up in a tie because there's only time for 3 possessions, and so you don't have to do all that much to wind up in a tie. Let's take a really quick break. We come back, plenty more of your hot takes. Couch in the Rube, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis and our friends at Muskox High Quality Flannels.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wondered just how comfortable you can be? Find out with Muskox high-quality flannels. Muskox is a Detroit-based company that creates durable comfort that'll last a lifetime. Muskox flannels are thoughtfully designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. This will be the softest flannel you'll ever buy, guaranteed. For every $100 purchase, Muskox will donate $10 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Get comfortable this fall and winter with Muskox flannels. Learn more or order yours today at gomuskox.com.
Christmas is around the corner and beautiful jewelry is on her Christmas list. So where will you go to buy that gorgeous diamond ring or that sparkly diamond necklace or that incredible diamond bracelet? Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations by the Lansing Mall by Meridian Mall in Jackson and in Portage have the largest selection and the latest designs of beautiful jewelry that she's been dreaming of. If an engagement ring is on your mind, come into Meadowar Jewelers and let our professional staff explain to you all about natural and lab-created diamonds. Our diamonds are set by master jewelers whose passion for their art shows so clearly in each and every piece. So, for that perfect gift that's on her Christmas list, come into Meadowars by the Lansing Mall by Meridian Mall in Jackson and in Portage, and we'll help you find it.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis. Apparently, I've had a little too much Skyman tonight. Inspiring us all to feel better,
Share
look better,
some,
be better every damn day of our lives. And our Monday night show brought to you by Muskox and Muskox high-quality flannels. Go to gomuskox.com, GOMUSKOX.com. Check out their flannel selection. I'm telling you, Christmas may be over, but January, perfect time for a new flannel. If you order one, share your experience with us. Let us know what you think. Look, Jason and I have had great experiences. Just unbelievable softness, keeps you warm, durable. These things are supposed to last 20 years. So
they make you look good too. Like they are form-fitting. They make you look like you have like muscles and stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
Seriously, it does.
It's another advantage. So if you're a fat oaf like the two of us,
Yeah.
Muskox.
Slap that shirt on and lie to people.
Absolutely. It's perfect. And again, the Couch in the Rube promo code CAW15 for $15 off. All right, back to your hot takes.
Max Christian's next. Number 1, early nominee for biggest snub of 2023. Mel Tucker shaking Charbonneau and Kyle Austin's hands at halftime, but ignoring Graham and Solari. Sorry, Graham, but I saw maybe a story worth telling.
This would be a story worth telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company, except it's not true. So you did see what you saw,
sucks.
but I'm not calling Max a liar. He saw what he saw, and I know why he thinks he saw what he saw. So Mel Tucker was walking over towards us. I saw him. He was walking towards the tunnel. Stuck at my hand, said hello. We shook hands, and I think Mel at that point realized, fuck, I probably ought to shake all the other writers' hands. And so he went down the row, and he shook Solari's hand next, and then came back, and as he was coming back, I think that's what Max saw, because he came back the other way and shook Kyle's and Charbonneau, but he had already shook Solari in my hand, and then I was working on something, he walked by.
Wow.
So it was just, he saw one moment of it, but not the whole thing.
That gets the Rico Beard Award for flipping that story and making it sound like you're the king shit. That's genius.
I'm not calling myself the king shit, but he wouldn't have shook any of our hands if I hadn't reached out as he was going to walk to the tunnel and said hello.
I just like that. That's Mac's story, and probably other people in that section probably saw the same.
Yeah.
So it's their story.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins' chains next. Number 1, Lions were the hottest team in the NFL. Nobody wanted to play them. 2, can't start 1-6. Hard to blame the refs with the start. 3, so if I understand correctly, Graham's animosity towards Cousins is because Kirk wasn't lying around or laying enough pipe at MSU. Sorry. Got to respect a man of principle.
My principles are Kirk's.
He wasn't laying pipe, though?
I mean,
You can't be into God and lay pipe?
I
What's the thing there?
don't want to get into that because,
is he waiting until marriage or
one of those
he's
things.
married,
I mean,
right?
He is now. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never understood that. Got to try it out first. Are we done with these?
Well, yeah. No, I mean, yeah. That is my sort of. That's not my. I don't really have a problem with Cousins in that his beliefs, he can do whatever he wants. But I like.
Is that
to
really
joke.
your take though? That he wasn't laying enough pipe?
No, I like to joke that to be a Division I quarterback, you ought to live a certain way for the rest of us to live vicariously through you, and that was
like
sort of,
Tebow. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
man?
that was sort of my take,
Holy
especially when I
shit.
was like 23, 24. One of the things we thought about doing, actually, and I was in a text with you and Andrew Gauthier from Groovy Donuts last night, and I had a take that you guys were like, I'll make that your hot take. I was like, there's no way I'm going to make that my hot take. Now I guess I have to share it. But I was some take about how they're, I'm surprised there's religion in Michigan with how often God's fucked over the Lions or whatever it was. Something immature that you wouldn't be a real take.
Oh.
But I thought, where that would be a take is if all of us, we asked for 2 real takes and then one take from your 15-year-old self. And all Gavin would have to do is think back a year. But the rest of us,
I'd get canceled.
Thinking back a little while, like, what is the irrational take you would have today when you were 15 years old? Because that would have been my sort of take back then. It was like, can't go to church today. That God didn't do his part. That sort of thing. That was the 15-year-old.
What a
Graham.
Spicy Twitter account you'd have.
Yeah. It was, God, if Twitter existed when I was 15, we would not be here. It would.
Well, look at Damar Hamlin. They found his old tweets when he was fucking 11 years old.
Did they really? How bad were they?
Oh,
he was an 11-year-old.
Yeah, he was 11 years old on Twitter.
Not good.
That's pretty much. It wasn't anything crazy. It's just.
Yeah.
It was the times, and it was 10 years ago.
And I also think that we should leave anybody alone for anything they tweet before a certain age. And now there might be a certain thing that's.
But Jordan
like,
and I talk about this all the time. How does an agent not go through and scrub everyone's social media if they're your client? If I'm Damar Hamlin and I'm firing my agent.
But even if you're a writer and you find something that's like this guy tweeted when he was 11.
Oh, God.
It's like 11-year-olds are morons. Of course they're going to tweet. Their voice is a child. It's a freaking child. What he thinks is an 11-year-old is not really who he is. Right.
And why was he on Twitter anyway?
Well, that's,
You know what I mean? Even 15 or whatever, I mean.
But parents can't prevent all that stuff.
How do you cancel people for something they said like 10 years ago when they were 11, though?
Yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that.
Alan Bolter next. Number 1. I know going 1-6 costs the Lions a playoff spot, but come on, NFL. The officiating at the end of the Rams-Seahawks game was criminal. Too many bad calls to list. 2, I hope Detroit mojo at the end of the season carries over and they didn't miss a magical run, i.e. Eli and the Giants.
That is the fear, right? It's like this was.
Well, you might as well get over it because there's nothing you can do.
Right. But it is a little like, oh, God. I mean, you just wanted to see it. Like, here's the counter to the idea that this feels better than a playoff loss. At least with a playoff loss, you're not left wondering. Like, if they had gone to San Francisco and San Francisco's defense, which has been phenomenal at times, was just too much, and they lose a game like, 28-17, and
I'll take it.
They're outclassed, yeah, it'd be okay. Yeah. They're not as good yet. That's fine. We know that now. The problem when it's sort of like, and this is why I go back to that 1995 game that Dominic always gives me shit for with Yancey Thigpen. It's because for 7 weeks the Lions were 3-6. They get to 10-6. They win 7 straight to save Wayne Fontes' job, and they're just scorching people offensively. And it felt like, well, wait a sec, this is different than anything we've ever seen. They get in the playoff, and that's why I thought if they got a home playoff game instead of having to start on the road, hence the Yancey Thigpen drop pass for the Steelers against Green Bay that gave Green Bay a home playoff game and sent the Lions on the road. I thought maybe if things started well, they get that one home playoff game instead of the disastrous stay at the Eagles. Who knows with that team? And this team didn't quite have that, but it was, let's see what it looks like. Because the 49ers
weren't playing really well.
Yeah. And they had an edge to them. Yeah. And they had a fearlessness. And they weren't going to lose that fearlessness, I don't think, because you're playing with house money next week, too. If you're playing at San Francisco, nobody expects you to win. Your idea is to go out there and not leave with any regrets.
Michigansey next. Number 1, rooting for Aiden Hutchinson against Kenneth Walker. The Lions might be the olive branch for the MSU and Michigan rivalry. This team is going to continue to give us all common ground, something we desperately need.
So, but that's what happens in pro sports. And that's what's so weird about the Michigan State rivalry is the same people who hate each other on Twitter one day are dancing together at a Tigers game or Lions game. They're all one fan of the same pro teams.
Yeah, but I don't want to dance with those people.
Who cares? Okay.
Well, you know what I mean? I don't think of it as being that crazy to where I need, Kenneth Walker and Aiden Hutchinson.
So you hold the grudges from college over to the pros?
No, I don't hold it over, but it's just like, I just don't think there needs to be a kumbaya moment where we're all getting together and dancing because 2 guys are playing. I don't know.
Right, but what I'm saying is it's a reminder that all of this is just fucking laundry, right? You're rooting for laundry. You're not rooting for Aiden Hutchinson because he went from Michigan. You're rooting to him because he wears the winged helmet and the blue and gold, and he plays on the football team. You don't care what class he goes to. You're not rooting for Kenneth Walker because he goes to Michigan State University. You're rooting for it because of what he does on the football field wearing your laundry. That's all this shit is. It's all it is in any of these sports. Laundry? The Michigan State. Oh. It's just you're wearing the uniform. That's all it is. We're rooting for uniforms. And another reason you don't wear alternative uniforms. Don't fuck with the uniforms. That's all you got.
Nick Palmer next. Number 1, Once again, Dan Campbell with a total Madden move, going 5 wide on 4th down. 2, next season the Lions will be a trendy Super Bowl pick. And 3, Tom Brady is beating Dallas because of course he is.
Dallas didn't inspire a lot of confidence yesterday, and they're playing better. I don't know. I just don't think that. I don't think they're very good.
Tampa Bay is even worse.
That's what I mean. I don't think Tampa Bay is very good.
No.
I still think Dallas has better upside in these postseason, but I wouldn't be surprised given. Yeah, I wouldn't.
And I got to say, I hate the next season that the Lions will be a trendy pick.
Yeah, it's not good.
I hate it. It's annoying.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
No, yeah. No.
Paul E. Show up next. Number 1, as disappointing as losing out on the playoffs is, the Lions' fate was determined at 1-6. 2, before the internet, people wrote all their thoughts in journals. Now it's social media. I say we make a big push to revert back to journals.
Just journal instead
like
of
an actual
tweet?
Like write it down.
Did you ever journal as a kid?
No.
I can't imagine you journal. Yeah, I don't think
my handwriting is bad at 43. Imagine when I was younger.
Yeah, I think I had a journal briefly, but it was part of an assignment. It was like in elementary school, we were supposed to journal. I don't think it was like, hey, before I go to bed, I'm going to journal.
I would pay $2,000 for that journal right now.
To see what I wrote back then?
Oh, yeah. $2,000.
I don't. Yeah,
we could GoFundMe that.
Yeah, but I don't think there was anything bad in that. Like I'm
willing to look.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are ages.
You have to promise me that there's pages in there, though, not just you writing down some sort of fucking stat or something.
Like the teenage years would be humiliating. But the elementary school years would just be like innocent kid talking about, hey, I want to go play football today with my friends. You know, that's different. Yeah.
And these kids are going to have every moment like on video. It makes my palms sweat.
Luckily, I taped over most of my young video, put out with Barry Sanders highlights, back in the 90s, which my mom very much appreciates.
And porn.
That.
Paulie Show, number 1, as disappointing as losing out on the play. Oh, I already read these. Jesus H. It's hot in here. Ryan Allen, number 1. The Lions won't take a quarterback with its 6th pick, but I do think they can somehow draft C.J. Stroud. He would be a perfect fit for the Lions team. Pocket passer with arguably the best pass professional offensive line in the league, something he needs, and with the Lions wide receivers, I think CJ could be elite with Detroit.
Yeah, I fucked this up in the edit. He meant pass pro offensive line. I changed pro to professional, which is not what he was writing there. My bad. Ryan.
Really throws you off reading it.
Sorry there. Look, I am all for, again, the Brad Holmes you trust sort of thing. If Brad Holmes, says one of these quarterbacks is my guy and you got to make a change, that sort of cutthroat mindset, I wouldn't be mad at him. You're trying to do something that an organization's never done. And if you feel to take the next step, you got to draft one of these guys and you like one of them and there's an opportunity. And again, when you have the multiple picks, and you've got more draft capital than you may have in future years. And that's, again, why if you're not going to draft a quarterback, I would be inclined to move the first-round pick to create it a year from now and have more flexibility. But good take.
Chris Eastlick next. Number 1, that was one of the most painful basketball games I've ever watched. 2, 5 wide-open air balls were about to as tolerable as a short side jet sweep with a tight end or a weak side toss to L.J. Scott 7 yards deep in the backfield on 4th and goal from the 1.
Point taken.
Descriptive. Jesus. 3, officiating in all sports is ass.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. It's hard, but it also, there's some real
college basketball pisses me off the most, though.
What I wish there were certain, like with the I started thinking about the running into the kicker, or running into the punter play, because in soccer, what they have that doesn't require the same level of the refs going over and all this stuff is VAR, which is done separately, and if the ref has to take a look at it, they'll go look at it. But a lot of stuff, offsides and other things, just gets done quickly on a computer and a group, looking at it and I do something like that probably wouldn't get overturned because it sometimes has to be a big error. But I do wish there was an opportunity in critical moments for a coach to say, hey, no, take a look at that. Because I don't want all penalties to be reviewed. I don't want unlimited amount of challenges and all that stuff. But that was a really massive call at a point in the game, and there ought to be a way to get that right. And I don't know what it is.
Nick Montes next. Scorching hot takes for the Monday show. Number 1, Lions make it to the NFC Championship next year with huge offensive or off-season defensive signings. 2, Michigan doesn't make the NCAA tournament. 3, Al Horford wins the NBA title and brings the Larry O'Brien Trophy to Grand Ledge. Hoff needed. Why would you need Hoff?
I don't know, but yeah, good question. This is Nick Mantis, formerly from WLNS, who left.
I know who it is.
Oh, yeah.
I recognize the name. Thanks for explaining.
Sorry. Yeah.
They want some Hoff.
Yeah, and I do love Hoff. I miss the Feliz Navidad Hoff.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone until next December.
Until December.
The Michigan doesn't make the NCAA tournament. It's going to be a fascinating Big Ten season, and it's going to be interesting to see how the committee judges the Big Ten, because I don't know about Nebraska. Nebraska's kind of on the fence, but there are 12 teams in the Big Ten that have a legitimate chance at the NCAA tournament, and not all 12 obviously going to make it, and it's going to be how much hay you make in conference play. So Michigan, and they got off to a decent start, they're going to have to do well. But I just look at their talent, and I tend to think Michigan's going to be a bubble team with the NCAA tournament.
Ryan Schultz next. Number 1, I hope the league is done with Baker Mayfield forever. 2, Graham had a top 10 worst take last show. If Harbaugh leaves, Pat Fitzgerald is somebody they gotta take a look at.
Probably need to write that one down.
Jesus, did you really say that?
You don't believe Pat Fitzgerald to be good there in Michigan? I do.
Oh my God.
Son of a bitch. Did it again.
It's like Groundhog's Day. Oh, my God. And it's still as funny. Holy shit.
It's not great.
Oh, man.
I'm going to break this computer one. This one was a direct hit.
Jesus. Those microphones are expensive. Oh, man, that gave me.
the computer.
Oh, my God.
Where'd the thing go? Maybe we take a really quick break.
All right.
And I'll figure out how to
Or
put
we
this
listen
back.
to you suffer. I don't know.
Both sound great to you, don't they? Let's see here.
All right. I can go to break.
Okay.
All right.
Couch in the Roop.
Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Sky Mint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Sky Mint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Sky Mint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Sky Mint Cannabis. You'll love this place. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Visit firekeeperscasino.com to download the mobile app today. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Room podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch in the Roop, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and our friends at Muskox and Muskox high-quality flannels. Go to GoMuskox.com to place your order today and learn more about Muskox.
Man, your Pat Fitzgerald take was so bad the microphone killed itself.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
I found the screw to fix it though, so that's good.
Jeff Hewitt's probably listening to this going, Jesus Christ.
How many times
microphones are expensive, Couch.
Yeah, it's not great. I was complaining about hitting the computer, but this computer's had more direct hits, mostly from donuts and crumbs and other various food items. I think Pat Fitzgerald don't fall off microphone is a decent choice at a place like Michigan. I think he'd do well.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
I just don't think Michigan fans would be happy whatsoever with Pat Fitzgerald. I think Pat Fitzgerald is good at Northwestern.
I think you need a guy at Michigan who can, he's got to assemble a good staff, and he's going to have to recruit at a little different level. But Michigan is not a place that's recruited at the same level as Ohio State or Alabama. And so you need to be able to do that level with a little less, and that's something that Pat Fitzgerald's done for a long time.
Gavin Haas, next. Number 1, Killian Hayes is the future of the Pistons, not Cade Cunningham.
Whoa, that's
hot. That's, yeah. 2, the Lions are going 6-0 in the NFC North and winning the division in the 23-24 season. 3, The Gregory Soto trade was solid, not flashy, but a trade that could make the season a little more bearable to watch.
These are good, Gavin, because they are hot. The Killian Hayes is not the future of the Pistons, but
He doesn't mean that.
no,
He just wanted to be hot.
but it is hot.
Take.
But he has had he's been better this year. He's an NBA player. What I didn't even know going into this year whether Killian Hayes would be in the league in a year and a half or something, and I think
He wasn't looking good.
And now he is. So there's that. So that's I don't know where, I don't think he's a long timer with the Pistons necessarily. The Soto trade was interesting. We haven't done Tigers in a while.
Tigers.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
Now, be honest. Did you know any of the guys the Tigers got?
I had not heard of them before. I've read up on the whole thing and listened to some analysis since then, but I didn't know offhand. Did you?
Oh, I knew Mayton. Is that his name? Because I collect baseball cards. But
Okay.
the other two dudes, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd heard of Matt Vierling.
Really?
Either that or I knew the bar, the Vierling and Marquette. I'm not sure, but it came to mind. It came to mind. But I don't hate this because, and I know Soto had 2 more years of club control and all that, but these guys are, at least a couple of them should be guys who contribute a fair amount. And I don't think Soto was like the answer as a closer. He just made you terrified every time he was out there. He's a good arm, but I don't think this is bad value, and I don't hate it. It wasn't like they've gotten a lot less
You're gonna miss
for more.
Cody Clemens though.
Yeah, nobody's going to
And
miss
his dad
Cody.
Roger at the game.
He's not barely a major league player.
Kevin from Rochester Hills next. Number 1, without Jared Goff, the Lions would have only won 2 games. 2, Dan Campbell has plenty of faults, but is the greatest coach. It says couch.
Sorry,
Jeez, you're killing me.
that's me.
All right, let's try this again. Dan Campbell has plenty of faults, but is the best coach in Lions history. 3, Michigan must have loaded Juwan Howard and Hunter Dickinson with Skymint prior to the game to keep calm.
Greatest coach in Lions history. I mean, the thing is,
Sure.
it doesn't take it. The bar is so low. Again,
It's Wayne Fonts. And,
Wayne, you got to win
Bobby
a
Ross, maybe.
win yourself a playoff game, and we'll talk. Once you do that, you're in the club. So
Nah, he's in the club.
Yeah, he's in the club.
That was
All right.
pretty impressive yesterday.
Yeah.
Plus size softball dad next. Number 1, the Lions win, and I'm pissed. Dan Campbell cost this team a chance by being a meathead. 2, I should go to sleep. The Lions won, and I'm unhappy. And 3, it's Jet with 2 T's. Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson is the worst.
What did he keep saying?
I don't know.
Jet
Jet
Howard. How is it pronounced?
How do you not
differently?
say Jet? How do you
Jet.
just with 1 T?
Jet.
Are we sure he got Jet wrong then?
I didn't listen to the broadcast. I
Jet?
watched some of the game back, but it was on mute, which is the best way to listen to Gus Johnson a lot of times.
Pretty much, yeah. Shep up next. Number 1, Dan Campbell is the love child of Bill Belichick and Hill Hogan. That's got to be Hulk Hogan. You're killing me, Couch.
I didn't catch it in the edit. I thought maybe you'd know who it was.
NFL Hulk Hogan, Hill Hogan. Who the fuck is Hill Hogan?
Maybe Hill Hogan's somebody that cool kids know and I don't.
There is no Hill Hogan.
Okay, that's
It's
good to
Hulk
know.
Hogan.
I
All
would
right.
have fixed it.
NFL refs are ass. Who wants to see that garbage Seahawk team instead of the Motor City masterpiece? 2, the only thing cringier than naming your kid Jet is naming him Jet.
The Jet with two T's.
Jet. All right. What are we missing? Are we missing something?
We're missing something.
All right. 3.
That's pretty regular for us.
I know. Well, when you miss it too, I'm like, oh boy. I must say, it's impressive how clearly Gus Johnson can enunciate with Michigan's balls in his mouth. How many times did he try to hype up the cringy superfluous T at the end of Jet Howard's name? Wait, I need to hear this now.
Yeah. Jet.
I watched the game with the sound on.
Jet.
Carl, are we going to do any of those? Or are we good?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I'm curious about Jet, but otherwise, yeah. Otherwise,
Other than that, yeah. All right, Carl Mylock, number 1. Lions fans are becoming unbearable. The thought that they all of a sudden own Rodgers or that the whole league is against them is laughable. Just want to have fun for 24 hours. Is that fucking possible, Carl? 2, Jamal Williams should never be compared to Barry Sanders, regardless of how many touchdowns Williams has. Williams plays behind an elite offensive line, or he plays behind an elite offensive line and gets fed anytime Detroit is within the 10. Jesus. 3, so many extremely mid teams in the NFL playoffs this year. Lions would probably make it to the NFC Championship if they were in. Bonus, the Quay Walker shove is well overblown. My God, he barely touched him.
Yeah, but you can't push the trainer. That's sort of it. And
Dude, he shoved him.
And this is a bad week for it. Bad week to push the trainer.
It's never a good week.
No, I know, but
You're
I'm just
touching
saying
someone coming out to help another player.
I'm just saying people are like honoring trainers this week.
That's not the first time this Quay Walker has done that either.
Yeah,
and he's crying, walking.
Well, he was mad at himself.
Yeah,
and
but do we need to?
His apology was pretty good. Like for a lot of insincere apologies in the world, like it's like, oh, that guy had it written by a PR guy and didn't give a shit. Like his apology.
Yeah, but what else are you supposed to do? Double down?
No, but
shove that motherfucker again.
But he sounded like an immature guy who was paying for his transgressions.
Dude, he's done it twice.
Yeah,
though.
It's not great. It's not.
I mean, come on.
And nobody is saying Jamal Williams is Barry Sanders. Like if anybody thinks that they are, and I know Carl's a young guy, and he obviously has good perspective on this. And the other thing about Barry in touchdowns, it's not a great record to break, because even in Barry's heyday, they would like take him out on the goal line sometimes and put in some plow horse, So like it wasn't always
touchdown Tommy Vardell.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, Derek Moore or somebody like that.
Yeah. Ken Shue next. Number 1, Lions fans who think the league intentionally made calls against the Rams to screw the Lions are delusional. But it's true. 2, Big Ten basketball teams will beat each other up, and none of them will be the seed they deserved in the big dance. And 3, Tony Dungy is a Vulcan. What does that mean?
I don't know.
He's the only one that picked the Lions to win.
Oh, okay.
On that terrible pregame and halftime show.
Yeah, and
with weirdo Jason Garrett.
That is a weird show.
Through your
That is
soul.
a weird show. Yeah, yeah.
Who looks at Jason Garrett and goes,
fire.
Man.
Yeah.
We need to get him on our show.
Jason Garrett?
Yeah.
Or, he does the Notre Dame games, too. It's pretty, it's not great. The number 2, though, from Ken, I do think this presents, if I were to spin for the Big Ten basketball situation, I would say this. Because I think you're right, there is going to be a lot of beating each other up, a lot of teams between 9-11 and 11-9 in the Big Ten, and a lot of teams that don't get seated where they probably should be. I think this is a year where the Big Ten could have a lot of teams in the NCAA tournaments with lower seeds and see a couple of those teams get to the second weekend because of it and make runs that are unexpected. Like, just looking around college basketball, there are some 1 seeds that should beat most of the teams in the Big Ten that would be seeded 8 or 7 or 9 or 10. But there are a lot of 2 seeds in college basketball that I wouldn't take very much over some of those teams, too. So, like, I think the Big Ten is going to have a lot of teams that are a pain in the ass for people in the NCAA tournament, and they could really use a good NCAA tournament. Forget the seeds, anything else. They need one where you wind up with 3-4 teams in that second weekend. You get that sort of year, it reinvigorates the league image a little bit.
Sparty 99 next. Number 1, if they made the playoffs, the Lions would have defeated the 49ers, beat Philly by a field goal, beat Dallas, but lost to Buffalo in the Super Bowl. All right.
Would have taken that.
Yeah, I'm in.
Getting to a Super Bowl. That's the weird thing. Like, I know this losing a Super Bowl would be painful, but like getting to a Super Bowl, it's
the whole thing would be painful.
Yeah, well,
be a roller coaster. 2, the Lions go 9-8 next year and miss the playoffs.
Oh, that'd be rough.
3, Buffalo returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown gave me chills. DeMar gives the Super Bowl pregame speech, and the Bills win the Super Bowl.
DeMar Hamlin released from the hospital today, which is good news, obviously. That was pretty damn cool, and I think it changed I think it was hard for the Bills to play a little after that. Like, the Patriots actually gave them a game. I also think the Bills on defensively are a little susceptible right now too.
I'm glad that he's okay, but man, was this shit overblown. I mean, the NFL knows how to pour it on, man.
Well, yeah.
And these guys like Robert Griffin wearing his jersey backwards, I'm glad he got roasted for that. It's like, come on.
We know who he is, right? You don't know
right.
3 Bills. We got it. Yeah, no, look,
you know what I'm saying, though? It's not like you saying anything bad about DeMar Hamlin. It's just like, oh, my God, it's everywhere.
So, but I want to get into the Bills not being that good, and what it also is another reason the Jared Goff thing makes me nervous. In the NFL, the team that wins at the end is usually the team that has enough healthy dudes and an elite quarterback. The Bills are nowhere near the team they were at the beginning of the year. The Eagles may or may not be. They were really hot for a little bit. you got to have enough dudes still healthy, and then you got to have an elite quarterback who can overcome the other depleted teams. Nobody has a single starter left in their secondary. All these guys were signed off the practice squad, and we're pumping gas like 6 weeks ago on every team in football. It feels that way. It's not obviously the way it is. I'm just saying that you got to – that's what makes me nervous about Goff. Can he be the guy when the Lions are that decimated team to elevate them? I don't know.
Let's just start with the playoffs before we start talking Super Bowl.
That's true.
Yeah. Bo McJunkins next. Number 1, Michigan is the softest fan base in the country. Exhibit A being Izzo's Mel Tucker quote. 2, this MSU team will finally get back to the Sweet 16. And 3, I'm thrilled for DeMar Hamlin and his recovery, but some of the social media tributes are starting to reach or become cringy.
So,
well said, Bo.
Yeah, I mean,
it is
when it seems insincere or about somebody else too, it gets to be it gets to be too much.
It's all over the place, though.
Yeah, no, look, some of the stuff is obvious. Like Izzo dedicated to Mel Tucker, and just it was obvious because they lost to Michigan and everything that went on there. People don't need to have a conniption about it.
Coach my team.
Ryan Schultz on Twitter explaining the Jet thing. He goes, people are remarking on how Gus Johnson was like, that's Jet with 2 T's, folks.
Oh.
At least twice in the broadcast. So it wasn't Jet. Yeah.
Well, that's a bummer. I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking of, TT next. Number 1, wearing TCU shirt at a Michigan game says MSU can't take care of business. T-shirt read.
Muskox doesn't have T-shirts, but you can get yourself an unbelievable flannel, and you could cut the flannel. I would not cut a Muskox flannel. They are really nice. But if that's your style and you want to look like, it would be like a Flintstone or something like that. You could cut off the sleeves from a Muskox high-quality flannel. And if you want to do that, you just go to gomuskox.com and buy yourself any flannel, cut the sleeves. You can be Fred Flintstone. Yeah. So did you read all of them or no?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, because the T-shirt read.
Yeah, sorry.
2, deep, strong Big Ten times a short roster equals more minutes equals higher injury risk. Maybe I'm too glass half empty. 3, Ben, I just want to say one word to you. Just one word. Are you listening? Mortgages.
What is that? What am I missing?
I don't know.
Little inside baseball, TT, but we take some clarification. Yeah, you're right. One of the things that will be, I mean, this Big Ten, you're going to have to play it out every game, and they're usually you can count on 5 nights a year in the Big Ten where you go, that's a win. Most of them are at home, but you might get a couple on the road against shitty teams. And this year, outside of Minnesota, which Michigan State just plays once, you don't get those games. And they already played the home game against Nebraska. That's just the way it is. I think it's overall, you got to look at it as a positive for the league. It's going to be a battle-tested league, and you just hope a couple teams find their way to get through. I think it's the best in my lifetime. The Big Ten is top to bottom. It is not obviously at the top the best the Big Ten's ever been, but there's never been a deeper Big Ten. First of all, they didn't even have this many teams. But you go to the Big Ten tournament and you think about some of those Wednesday games, the 10 seed through the 14 or 11 through 14, how shitty those teams are. Like, there are going to be teams playing in the 11 through 14 games that think, fuck, we should have been in the NCAA tournament, or maybe we still could be. We could win this whole thing. It's going to be a totally different deal, although maybe those will just be the teams that get injured throughout this whole thing. We'll see.
Chris Fletcher next. Number 1, this year's Big Ten champ will have no less than 5 losses. 2, Aaron Rodgers' smugness is what made him an all-timer, but is also what ended his season and career. Jesus. 3, Hunter Dickinson's punchable face finally meets a fist next season at the hands of Dwight Howard in the T1 League in Taiwan.
Big Ten champ, no less than 5 losses. Very likely the only team that might avoid it is Purdue if they somehow get on a run, but even them. But you see it with Rutgers already having 2 and Ohio State having a couple. Like the losses are going to pile up. I wouldn't be surprised if 14-6 get you a share.
Mr. Benjen. Number 1, MSU should be a top 15. Losses are to KenPom, number 7, 13-52, and true road loss. With injuries, that's some bullshit. 2, rankings do matter for NCAA seeding, where we regularly get hosed. And 3, Lions will revert to the mean and pick two tight ends this draft, then go 4-13 as Chicago wins the North.
That's some depressing shit there, Ben. To number one, I do think you have to ignore, like, I use Ken Palm all the time, but I've sort of gotten away from it now that Malik Hall's back because it's not relevant. I mean, and there are a lot of teams that have injuries and things aren't relevant to who they are in that moment. And the committee's supposed to be able to judge that stuff. I mean, in theory, as important as Malik Hall is to everything they do, I mean, Michigan State's 6-1. Those other games don't matter, right? If the committee's talking about you lose a star, you get them back. You can't do that entirely. You also have to recruit depth and deal with guys being out a little bit. But, yeah, you can't look at Ken Palm right now. It's just not a relevant metric deal unless you're looking at individual games or individual players and their. But the team-wise, it's just bullshit.
Why can't you look at Ken Palm?
Because he's got a stupid-looking face. No.
Fuck. Couch on fire. Number one, consolation prize beating Green Bay. Hopeful, but still cautious on the Lions, given a lifetime of letdowns. 2, when Izzo and his point guard are on the same page, usually means a pretty dangerous beast. And 3, Hall says he often has ankle roll issues. Maybe time to go back to high tops.
I'm not a high top fan either. Me and Malik Hall both see that. But, yeah, it was kind of a scary thing.
You wear those New Balances, though.
Yeah, I know. Tennis shoes are, look, tennis players don't need them. Of course, you don't step on ankles. I don't jump to rebound anymore either. The Izzo Hoggard thing is fascinating to watch. And I talked to AJ for a while about this in the locker room on Saturday. And it's one of the best things about covering Michigan State is still this incredible access. And I skip most of Izzo's press conferences, so I go down there alone and chat with him. And he just about those conversations and about the things he recognizes. And what's so interesting, and I led this in the column I wrote about him, was I asked him about the play where there's 1:15 to go, they're up 5, ball gets tipped out of his hand, and deep into the backcourt, he picks it up. They got like 10, 12, 15 seconds left on the shot clock. And what he was thinking in that moment, and the detailed analysis of it was very different than he would have given me a year ago. A year ago, it would have been like, just looking to make a play. You know, this year it was.
Talks like you?
No, I don't think he's on. But this year he was very much like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what we need. Put this on the ref here. We need to be aggressive. If we don't get something good here, here's the problem with the situation, them coming back the other way. Like, there's a lot of stuff he's aware of in that moment. That's sweat equity. That's growing up. And that's why his conversations with Izzo are calm. They're much more calm. And they still get at each other. But Izzo understands that he understands. And when you start from that place, that's a really good place to be for a coach-player relationship, especially a point guard.
Tucker Tarleson next. Number one, beating Rodgers in Green Bay to go 2-0 on them felt just as good as I imagined going to the playoffs would have felt. 2, Dan Campbell looks like Heat Miser. Who's Heat Miser?
I got to look this up.
3, The Year Without Santa Claus is by far the best Christmas movie.
I don't know that. Is that on Hallmark? Hold on.
It's probably good.
Heat Miser was an American rock band formed in Portland, Oregon in 1991. Oh, I can see some of that stuff. Yeah, okay.
Damn, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, that is a deep cut.
You don't know Heat Miser, bro?
Ah, fuck. I should. A Year Without Santa Claus. Hold on, I'm very curious about this. 1974. Wow. Okay, I like it. It's a 7.7 out of. I don't know these.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, but it's like a voiceover type deal. Mickey Rooney was in it though.
Ooh, count me in.
Yeah, definitely.
Love a good Mickey Rooney. Tyrone Couch next. Number 1, I picked against the Lions every game this year because of PTSD. I don't trust them. I'll try next year, I promise. 2, King Joseph Edwards will become a Spartan only because his mother will mesh well with Mama Hall and Mama Tron. MSU is dominating with cool moms. #book it. And 3, old Bob Dylan is awful in concert, but old Willie Nelson is great. My aunt saying I knew from the get-go that is the most white trash Michigan thing there is, aside from Barstool podcasts. My student's beautiful mom got fired from stripping. Can you get any lower?
I don't really know where this is going, Tyrone, but I will say that I have not seen Willie Nelson in concert. I have seen Bob Dylan, and it was he was weird that night. It was the State Fair in Springfield, Illinois in 2001.
Bob Dylan's ass.
It sucked. It was like, just play the.
I've never liked Bob.
Play the hits, man. There's stuff I want to hear. You're great at, and I don't want to hear you be weird on a given night. That's not why.
Bonus hot take: Jacob Dylan, his son, is better than Bob Dylan.
There you go. That is a hot take.
Jake Hakala next.
Jack Hakala.
Jack. I've been watching the NFL with no rooting interest ever since the Chiefs came back to defeat the Texans in the playoff game a few years ago, and Deshaun let all of Houston down by being an idiot. That all changed tonight. Go Lions. Go Jamal Williams, and go Dan Campbell, baby.
That's interesting. Creating a fan from somebody. This is I can see that, though. I can see people liking this Lions team if you don't have a passion.
Everybody roots for the underdog.
They're
right?
I mean,
the Cubs.
But they're also a likable team. If you're going to jump on a bandwagon, this would be a good time.
Yeah. Gideon. So let me get this straight. The Houston Texans, had to do. The Houston Texans had to do was lose on the road to get a number 1 pick, and now was the time Davis Mills chose to transform into Pat Mahomes. And 2, we just fired our second coach in as many years for losing with the worst roster in the NFL. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have an owner with a clear vision, obviously.
Is that 2 Houston Texan fans back to back?
I think both live in that area.
Oh.
Yeah. But, it sucks. Like, if you're the Texans. Now, the one good thing is I don't know that it's clear. There's not like a quarterback this year. There's no Andrew Luck. Like, I don't know between the 2 quarterbacks, for sure. And you could argue that you might be better off not having the first pick in some ways. And the hit rate on these guys isn't that high. I don't think this is a year where being 1 or 2 cripples you unless you really were in love with a guy. But based on who the Texans are, I can't imagine they're who knows who will be in their scouting department. Who knows what their attitude is toward these guys. I just don't. I don't think in this situation it mattered all that much, but it could have. There's no doubt about it.
Mr. Neurotic Pants. Number 1, I went to a Horizon League basketball game this week and saw Rocket Watts make a clinch 3-pointer. Even so, Horizon League ball has flashes of Big Ten and splashes of JUCO ball. 2, I went to MSU hockey this weekend, and I wish I hadn't. That team is cursed after January 1st, I swear. I need proof MSU is on the road to something better. And 3, the wrong venue takes all the fun out of hockey. The Shitstein Center isn't a very fun place for hockey, but then maybe that's because I've been there twice and seen MSU smashed both times.
No, it's not a hockey venue. It's too much for hockey. It's too much for college basketball. It's got a pro feel. It's not great. What Ohio State's got there, it's not great. And MSU hockey, absolutely. This is a huge weekend at home against Penn State, because I believe after this it's like Minnesota and Notre Dame. Like, it gets real again, and this is a sort of a what's the word I'm looking for?
Cockburn.
Fuck. This is a slide, I'll say, in the absence of a better word. But this is just something that happened a year ago horribly. They lost game after game after game after game, and these players, a lot of them were part of that, and so you've got to get a hold of it soon. I have a weird take on this, and it has to do with the GLI. I think, and I didn't feel this way until this GLI and thinking about it, and I could be wrong. I think they should get out of the GLI. I think they should kill the GLI. And I know the GLI is fun for fans over Christmas, but it's really right after Christmas. And so I'm guessing the players come back on Christmas to start working out. I was told this by a basketball coach a long time ago about like the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii and other things that are over Christmas. Athletes have to get away. And I know hockey players do for a little bit. They got like a week there after finals. They get home and stuff, and they had some time where they weren't playing. Players have to get away in the middle of the year. The teams that hate each other, that grow to resent each other, that get sick of each other, are the teams that play over Christmas without getting away. I don't think the GLI serves Michigan State very well. And after these 2 years, I mean, I know it's tradition and all that stuff. I'd get out of it. I would give my players the longer break, and I'd come back fresher going into the Big Ten. And that's just based on results, and it could be total bullshit, but I'm just saying that what happened to the GLI didn't help, and then they were ass at Ohio State, and now you got a really big weekend to sort of right the ship against Penn State.
Hans Jurget next. Number 1, the most exciting thing that happened to me this weekend was my urine forked when I peed.
Hell of a weekend.
Yeah. 2, Hate to say it, but Jason was against Dan Campbell in the beginning, and I was not, as he shows a screenshot. Hashtag eat crow. 3. MSU was nervous against Go Blow and airballed at least how many uncontested 3-point shots. They'll have nothing to lose in Ann Arbor, and we'll beat them again in Ann Arbor. Bonus. Video resurfaced again of Graham disrespecting Purdue's home court with his antics and buffoonery. The alma mater of John Wooden was soiled. The FBI must infiltrate the Boilermaker dark web to squash any future incident. Hashtag keep the peace.
He's just talking about that video of me 10 years ago, this February 9th, dribbling, or February 10th, whatever it was.
That was a heavy ball.
It was a heavy ball. It was a medicine ball. That's why I bounced aside.
it.
It's all they had available. And so
You will reply that same thing for years to come
because
when people post it.
It's not so much the bounce. I mean, it's why it went so far off the backboard. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to dunk anyway, but it's why the original bounce goes so high. It's the heavy ball. But you know why I remember the date? It was the day before my second date with my wife, and maybe the day after our first, or the 2 days after our first. I'll have to look. I think it was the day after our first and the day before our second date. 10 years ago. This year.
Write that down in your journals.
You know why she almost didn't go back out with me on our first date? Because I had a rental.
Smug?
No, I had a rental car for that Purdue trip. It was like a Dodge Charger. I was like, this is kind of fun. Well, I'll use this for our first date. Back then, I had a 2003 Malibu. No need to take that on the first date.
Panty dropper.
I didn't realize that the car smelled a little like smoke. I don't know if I was just desensitized to it or whatever.
Smoking butts, dude.
I wasn't smoke.
Some parliaments.
But she thought I was a smoker that first date because of it, and almost didn't.
Hell
didn't
yeah,
come back
you
out
look kind of badass. Like, man, this guy's kind of cheesy, but he's a smoker.
Yeah,
must be cool.
What did you do with Teresa on your first date?
Oh, you don't want to know.
I do. I think everybody wants to know.
No.
Yeah, what did you do?
No, it's nothing.
You can't.
What do you mean? No.
What do you do?
Oh, nothing. We went on a nice date and had read Bible verses.
Right.
And finally, Jake Hawkins.
There you go. Yeah.
Jake Hawkins, lastly. Number 1, Lambeau Field is by far not only one of the absolute best pro sports atmospheres, but one of the best overall football atmospheres out there. It's like a college football game. If you're a football fan, you got to check out the frozen tundra at least one time. 2, great win by MSU over Michigan Saturday. I'm staying in Madison for my trip, and we'll be in the house at the Kohl Center Tuesday night to see if MSU can keep up the good work. Graham, get at me if you'll be in Madison too. You were right. Madison is a nice city. 3, first responders deserve much respect and to be paid more, not just after last Monday night with Damar Hamlin, but also for tending to an older Lions fan at Lambeau Field in front of me. Went down because he wasn't feeling well and supposedly broke into a cold sweat. Heard he'll be okay.
That's good. And like we always like to end with uplifting things. I'll say this. Lambeau Field, if you've never done it, is incredible. And I've been there several times. Never as I've wanted to kind of go as a fan in that experience. My dad and my uncle went before my dad passed, I think like a year before. That was a cool experience. I went several times when Greg Jennings was playing there because I was doing stories, including that coldest walk I ever had in my life was when Brett Favre threw that interception against the Giants in 2007, and then the Giants beat the Patriots. That NFC Championship game, from where I parked to the Lambeau, like the mile walk that I had to, was to this day.
That was a big deal because he was a huge guy, and I just broke my chair.
That was the time, Jason, for a story quickly worth telling, that I didn't get the story on Greg Jennings because he said he'd call me when we were in the locker room. And by the time he did, I was in the parking lot around all these people playing music and tailgating, and I didn't hear the call. So I missed the column I got sent up there to do. Another story we're telling. Presented by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company. Thanks to Hopcat. Go to hopcat.com, the Hopcat closest to you. Obviously, thank you to Muskox. Go to gomuskox.com. Purchase your flannel today. $15 off with the promo code CAW15. And as always, thank you to Skyman for making this possible. We'll be back Wednesday night. Wednesday night show this week may include some Twitter questions. We'll look at that. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.